All right, what's up, good people? We are back in here for another one. The last show was a doozy, somewhat of a barn burner. I'd like to thank everybody who was there and everybody who's coming in today. Make sure you hit the like button as you make your way on in here, whether you're catching it right now while we're live or whether you're catching it after it's uploaded. Hit the like button. Let's get ready to go. Let's get it started. Let's get it as soon as I find my intro. There we go. Let's get it.
Peace, folks. This is X from TPOT Media. Open your mind and wake your black ass up. You know what time it is. Hit that damn like button as you make your way in the door. Grab a seat, settle in, get ready. It's the Grown Man Hour with your host, my man, Bernard Riley.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Mumia Obsidian Ali. You know who I am. I need no introduction, right? And you're listening to the Grown Man Hour with my man Bernard Riley, heard weekdays right here on YouTube. What do you think about that? How about that? Now let's get back on with the show. Thank you.
All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the show. See, somebody came through already with a super chat. Do appreciate that. Aaron B in the building. Shout out to the early bird squad. Those of you that make it in bright and early before I even get things started here, definitely appreciate all of you. Hopefully you like the video. You know that helped the algorithm and get people in here, so make sure you go ahead and do that. The Mac the Trucker in the building. Shout out to you. Queen Q in the building. Had an excellent one-on-one discussion with her yesterday about how y'all be spanking y'all kids at Walmart. We got to stop that, or anywhere for that matter. Walmart, at home. It's all bad to me. It's all bad to me the way we doing things. But anyway, we're gonna keep it moving. That was yesterday. But shout out to Queen Q. She says, "Wait, I just read the title fully. You mean to tell me you actually got?" But well, we don't. No. It was a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding. So let's. I'm gonna move on from that part. It was a slight misunderstanding about something, but no, we will be bringing up pastors and church members, and we're gonna be talking about it. We're gonna be talking about a few things, but we're gonna get into that. We may touch into the territory of what you're talking about, but we'll see. We'll see. Face to face in the building. Salute, Jonathan Barronville. When you said Nate gonna have a stroke. Yeah. Shout out to, I'm trying to make my way down to the person who contributed to the show. Shout out to Dusty Shacklefield, Hoop Jargon, C Gully. I appreciate each and every one of you to come in bright and early when we get things started. I do appreciate it. George Frazier and Saint Valoy says, good morning to the chat. And of course, Bernard, good morning to you. Thank you for coming on in. Appreciate you supporting the stream. let's get ready to go. All right, we're going to start bringing up the guest of honor, and I shouldn't even call Dr. Thunder a guest on the day. He arranged this and put this more or less put this all together. He reached out to some of his people, and we're going to have this conversation. So welcome to the show, Dr. Thunder. And you don't need no introduction, but I'll bring everybody else up, and we'll go around the room. We still got more people who are expected to be joining us shortly, but we'll go around the room. We'll start with Dr. Thunder, who I don't think you need an introduction around here, but you can go ahead and introduce yourself, and then we're going to then pass it to Pastor Copes and go from there.
Yes, I'm Dr. Thunder, and I am a musician, professor, and social commentator. And I've been involved in the church, in the Black church, um, you know, all of my life, all of my adult life. I've worked at various churches, and so I'm very well versed in this conversation. I've also been involved in the Black manosphere in particular, and I've had the distinct privilege of being on Bernard's show. I also interviewed Bernard on my platform on my interview series called Conversations with Dr. Thunder. I'm excited to be here, and I deeply appreciate, Bernard, your willingness to have this most important conversation on your platform.
All right. Thanks for coming. We're going to go to Pastor John Coates. You can introduce yourself for the audience.
All right. Greetings. My name is John Coates. Thank you, Dr. Thunder, for the invitation. Brother Bernard, for hosting this on your platform. I pastor a small church in Columbus, Ohio, the Metropolitan Church of God in Christ, and I also am a community advocate for specifically for Black people and the issues that affect us as a community.
All right. And Joe Brooks, who I believe you're a pastor as well, if I understand that correctly.
Yes, down in West Michigan, Kalamazoo, Grand Rapids. Yep.
Okay. So, yeah. So you're not that. That's how when I told you in my hometown, that's how you knew what it was. You're not that far from me. All right.
No, not at all.
All right. Yeah. So go ahead and I mean, is that your introduction? That's fine.
Yeah, pastor. I co-wrote a book with Michelle McKinney Hammond to single women, kind of aimed at Black women. What men, what women don't know, what men don't tell you. Another title was The Unspoken Rules of Love. So I have a real heart for men. I'm part of Ed Cole's Maximize Manhood World. And so we've always had an emphasis on men. For the 30 years that I've been pastoring, we have an emphasis on reaching men. And so I'm here, man. I'm in it.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you said that. You said the emphasis on reaching men, because one thing that I've noticed here in what we call the Black manosphere, even though I still believe in many ways it's in its infancy, we do a good job at reaching men. Men like to come and engage in these conversations. And one of the criticisms of the Black church, and we'll start right there, is what happened to the men? There's a shortage in Black men in the Black church. Back many moons ago, when I was a regular churchgoer, many moons ago, I noticed that. I went to a church here that had that church probably could pack about 3,000 people in there, maybe more. I don't know the exact layout, but it probably could pack anywhere from 3,000 to 4,000 people in there.
Wow,
I would still say, yeah, it was a nice size. I mean, it probably regularly had about, I don't know, maybe 1,500 people in there. That was that was a church I went to, but its full capacity was probably somewhere around 3,000 if they really, when they really packed it in tight on a big day. It was something like that, and it was obvious. And the pastor used to talk about it all the time, how the lack of men in the church. He used to rant and rave about it. It was a big issue. And so I guess we'll start with what happened, why are the men gone, and we'll get around to how do you get them back in there? How does a church which has mostly Black male leadership, how do you solve that problem of appealing to black men, assuming that you want the church to grow, and men should be a big part of that. So I don't know, Dr. Thunder. I don't know how we want to do it, because I know we can start with you and rotate around.
Sure, that sounds good.
Okay.
So on September 19th, Kevin Samuels did a Sunday night special show discussing how the black church can get black men back in the church. He discussed many salient points. Here are a few of the points that he made. And I have a hard time disagreeing with these points, by the way. One, the pastor must share power with other men in the church. Many men have felt that they don't have any say. The pastor's trying to take over everything that gets developed, anything that gets started. It's too much micromanagement and not enough sort of building leaders and then trusting their leadership. Number two, church must financially support singles ministry. Black church traditionally spends a lot of money on music, on women's ministry, on marriage ministry, but often it is the case that singles ministry, the expectation is that for it to sustain itself without any significant support from the church. And to the point, to the question posed, should the church be involved in arranging marriages? That would be a critical component to that end. And if the women in the church are going to be different than the women in the world, then the church has to start preaching all of the inconvenient passages in the Bible that call certain behavior out. Kevin said, well, I can't remember who it was. Well, actually it was Chiasan Johnson. He covered this. He covered a post that he saw, and this is in a recent. It was in a recent video he did, where a gentleman details how he was at a church. He was at a church, and he was told. All of the men were told to stand up. And then when they stood up, the pastor said, "Hey, I need you to start wifing up the single mothers in here."
Uh-oh.
All right. And then they never, the 13, he said 13 of them, they never returned to the church.
Good on them. Good on them.
But the thing is, and I don't have anything against single mothers. And of course, there's a difference between that and children that are, conceived outside of wedlock. There's a difference there. But the thing is that to sort of dance around the issue of how is it that you're having kids outside of wedlock, to dance around that issue, never address it, never head on address it, but then also expect the men, the few men that are there, to be the cleanup men. That doesn't seem to be valuing the men. It doesn't seem to be prioritizing their future. What it is that they are put here on the earth to do. So anyhow, those are a few points that he made. He made some other points, but I have a hard time disagreeing with those points. Pastor Coates, I don't know if you want to chime in.
Yeah, I'll land back on that, and I would agree with a lot of what you have contributed. But I would add to it that Black men are absent from the church because of the feminization that has taken place inside of the church. And it is a church that is, our Black church has become a church that is very accommodating to women. And the Black church seems to have endorsed even if not out loud. In some cases it has, but has even endorsed alternative lifestyles of Black men and applaud it as if to say that it is good and not bad. I mean, the blatant display of femininity on men, and that is not attractive to Black men. And even beyond Black men disappearing from church, we can't negate the fact that Black men are disappearing, period, from the community, and the effects of mass incarceration and death and the plethora of things that are targeting on Black men, and the church has to come to terms with its relationship, or if it wants to have a relationship with Black men, and then make the changes that we need to make in order to be a part of strengthening our community. And I believe that when Black men, if we strengthen, if we reach out to Black men, that the church will be strengthened, will be more purposeful, and our community will be strengthened as a result.
But really quick, before we go to Joe, and I hesitate to do this, I do want to get your thoughts on the general question out there. When you said reach out to Black men, I guess the question is, there's a how in there. There's an unspoken, how exactly do you do it? That's the difficult part.
Well, the Black church is embedded, or a lot of our churches are embedded in the Black community. There's Black men all around us. There's Black men in our families. There's no mystery why. I mean, there's Black men in the households of the women who attend the church, the present. Okay, so there are men that are available, and we know that they are there. But what happens is that we're so targeted on accommodating the women, and within the church, there's really not an interest in a lot of people's cases in really reaching out to these brothers, and then providing a curriculum, if you will, a ministry that's focused on uplifting, encouraging, and educating and forming Black men. Let's be Black man focused. And when you become really Black man focused, you'll attract Black men. And I don't think it has anything to do with how dressed down you are in your services. I don't think it has anything to do with that. I think it has to do with subject matter. That you deal with what you're preaching and its relevancy to Black men. Black men know what gives them life, and then what gives them death. But Black men show up in the Black church, and what they get is what Dr. Thunder said, marry these single mothers, or they get beat down. They come to church and they get beat down. They're told about what the Black man isn't doing, instead of explaining to the Black man, this is what's impacting your behavior and our behavior and the way that we think and react to things, and the things subliminally that's happening to us, the things that are systemically happening to us, and we might not know why. Black men need an explanation. Black men need a key to the answer, to unveil the mysteries of that which are impacting us. And if we can't provide that to Black men today as preachers and as a church, then we fail to be relevant and serve any good purpose for Black men and broader, even for Black women. We fail Black women in doing that. We fail the Black community.
All right, Joe Brooks. I saw you taking notes, so I know you're ready. You got a lot to say. Go ahead. Go ahead. You got it.
I was just making some notes there. I think I saw Kevin's talk about why Black men are leaving the church. I agree with some of it. There's a lot of it I don't agree with. I think Kevin's concept of the church is old time religion. He wants to go back, and I don't want to go back. I want to go forward. He complained about not being able to wear suits or the prosperity message, those kinds of things, which are, you got to examine, is prosperity part of the gospel? Okay. Does he promise you that you will prosper? Okay. And so, do Black people need to prosper? Absolutely. But we need to teach people how to. And so, for me, the reason, because when I inherited the church that I pastored, it was female dominated, female board dominated. And I think it's a lack of leadership on the part of Black men as far as being insecure, being around strong, capable men, and they're afraid. And a lot of them been stabbed in the back. And so you have that. You have emotion versus being practical. The Bible says walk in the spirit. So in other words, spiritual things are practical. Okay, if you can't do it, it's probably not spiritual. Okay, and so you have this emphasis on the emotion and playing to women. Black preachers play to women, and no Black man wants to sit there with his wife adoring this guy who is obviously making a play to be attractive to women. Okay, and so so when I took over as pastor, I kicked all the women off the board, and I told the women, I said, if your husband is not happy with you serving here, you can't serve here. Okay, you baking cakes for the pastor? Are you baking cakes for your husband? Can he even have a piece before you leave? Or
how did the women respond to that statement right there, what you just said?
The ones who want husbands responded great. The ones who wanted their husbands in church responded great. The women who saw themselves as ministers didn't like it. But I've got more women that want husbands than women who want career in preaching.
Right. You said one thing. You said that that men, I forgot how you worded it, and I don't even know if I understood the context. You said men feel intimidated by strong men. If I quoted you correctly.
No.
Okay.
No, what I'm saying is, this is what I told the women, Bernard. I said, okay, you get up and you go to church, and a woman comes out, and she's fine, and she's dressed to the nines, okay? She begins to speak, and your husband is hanging on every word, okay? And he's just mesmerized by this really good-looking woman who's she's got it, man, and she's delivering this word. And when you go home, he quotes her, sister so-and-so said, and sister so-and-so said, and you get in the car, you put her CD in, her tape in, and then you're riding, and then your husband says, well, what are we going to have for dinner? And you respond, I don't know, ask sister so-and-so. Because women wouldn't put up with it. They wouldn't put up what we ask men to put up with in church. And these men who are, they're obviously appealing to women. They're not trying to appeal to men. They're consciously. And so men feel like they have to compete. A lot of negative statements are made about what men need to do. And so now I got to compete with this guy. My wife is hungry for spiritual things. This guy is coming off as an expert in spiritual things, and I got to compete with him. And so I feel inept trying to pray with my wife or trying to lead my wife when I got to compete with Bishop so-and-so.
One thing, and I'll pass it to Dr. Thunder. I don't know if you got a question or something you want to throw out there, but there was one thing that, well, I got a couple questions. I was writing down some notes as well. Have y'all experienced this? And this is one thing, because y'all referenced Kevin Samuels, and this show to some degree is predicated on the show that he did when he was talking about Black men in the church.
Right.
And he mentions all the time that women will weaponize the words of the pastor, like literally like start quoting the pastor in her house or whatever in a discussion to win an argument. Is that a reoccurring thing? And I also want to talk to you about, that was the other thing I was trying to find in my notes, about when you got all the women off the board, and I'm assuming you replaced them with men, and then how did that help with the growth of men in the church? But I just want to ask both of you, have you experienced that women actually, or men have told you that, hey, my wife keep trying to quote to quote the pastor, keep trying to quote you, or take something you said and just to try to weaponize it against me? Is that something that you both have experienced? Either one.
I haven't experienced that because I don't hopefully give any quotes that they can take home and weaponize against their husband.
Good.
I speak on behalf of their husbands, and also we have to realize that these preachers are, as Pastor Brooks referred to as Bishop so and so. There's a lot of those rascals out there, but they'll speak alluringly to your wife, to your girlfriend in church, honey, baby, boo, girlfriend, and not only are they of course a spiritual authority in their lives, but they're also the relationship authority in their life. The pastor in many of these churches have the power to restrict the sex flow in your home. So
Whoa.
it's more than rather if you get a piece of that cake or not. It may have to do with if you get a piece from your wife. One time they might have gone to church and stood before the preacher, God, and the rest of the congregation, and took a vow in order to get married. He now has someone else in the bedroom with him that's talking to his wife every Sunday, Wednesday, maybe a Friday night.
It's crazy,
man.
In intimate terms.
Yeah. I didn't hear it. I had a kairos moment. I don't know. You guys know what that means? I had a God moment, synchronicity moment. I was in Dallas at a meeting. A pastor from Saginaw was in the Fort Wayne area in another meeting.
Who was the pastor from Saginaw? I probably know him. I'm just playing.
Don't
tell me.
No, but he was a white guy.
I'm from Saginaw. It's a slight chance I might know him, but no, don't tell me.
Yeah. Now he was a white guy, and this was like 30-something years ago. Okay, and we got on the plane and we were just celebrating. He was at a great meeting. I was at a great meeting, and here we are sitting next to each other on the way back. And then he looked at me. He says, "Can I say something to you without you getting offended?" And I said, "What?" He said, in the black churches in my city, the women are so dedicated to the pastors that the pastor will watch their marriage fail because of it. And he says, and so the men are so uninterested in church. And I took that as a word from God. And when I went home, I said, look, all the women off the board, every woman that serves here, you got to get permission from your husband to serve. And you got to tell him that Pastor knows I spend a lot of time and energy at the church, and he wants to make sure that you're good with that because you come first. And so if you're not served, he doesn't want you serving at the church. And our church exploded. We had about 25 people, and in a couple of years we had 200 and something, went to 600, 900. And so
what percentage of the growth, what percentage of it was men?
At
like
one
what
time,
percentage of the church is men?
At what time it was 50-50. Now what happens is because of where women are, you don't stay 50-50 long. Okay, because when they hear about that, they show up. Okay.
Right,
you got me?
Right.
And so, but I know some other guys, A.R. Bernard in New York, they have high percentages of men because that's the way they run their church. They run their church practically. I've not been there as far as the sharing of power, but you can't grow anything by yourself. Okay, and so if you don't know how to delegate and trust people with power, then that's going to put a ceiling on how high you can even grow. Okay, and then I don't know if you've ever heard John Maxwell's teaching on levels of authority, levels of leadership, but in the black church, you go from the first to the fifth automatically. The fifth being personhood. Okay, you start out with position, you go to permission, production, personal development. In other words, people follow you because of what you've done for them. Okay, and then you reach some people, Jakes, some of these people reach personhood, where you're kind of bigger than life. Okay, I've not reached that. Okay, but the most powerful thing you can do in a person's life is empower them, develop them, make them better. So my guys are better at work because of my input in their life. They're not just coming to the church, if that makes sense. And what
Yeah.
happens is this, it becomes transformational rather than transactional. Okay,
Right.
giving this offering, God's gonna bless you. Serve here, God's gonna bless you. Everything's, and for a lot of the churches, it's transactional. You know what I'm saying? As opposed to come here to become. If you come here, you're going to become a different person that's going to make you better in every area of your life. I'm pouring into you. I don't want just your money. I don't want just your time. I want your heart, man. I want to pour into you and make you better, make your life better in every possible dimension.
All right. All right. Yeah. One thing that I didn't even think about, and Pastor Coates, you kind of cleared that up. As far as the statement about the wife trying to weaponize the words of the pastor. Well, she only could do that if he was in there pandering from the pulpit to begin with. So if you're not pandering from the pulpit, then that really wouldn't be possible. So that's a really good point. I'm gonna pass it to.
The preacher could also be taken out of context as well.
Yeah.
That's true.
So some
That's
of
true.
that, all of it isn't on the on the pastor, because
Yeah.
some women come home with the intent of taking words that they heard that they may not have thought of, and then weaponizing them against their husbands, because there's other influences upon Black women than just the Black pastor. In fact, multimedia in America is geared towards influencing the Black woman. And television programs, all these Supergirl programs would show these women picking these men up and throwing them across the room. Every major motion picture that comes out, from even Coming to America too, women throwing men across the floor. Even when you showed up and looked at the fictional Wakanda, you showed here you have a woman warrior with her foot on a Black man standing on top of him. No. There's a lot of influences that's on Black women, including the white feminist that has targeted Black woman to turn on her Black man, even politically. That the white feminist would influence the Black woman in the church and outside the church to even vote for a person that may have incarcerated the Black woman has more influence on her than just the pastor.
Hey, I got politics and stuff like that. I got it written in my notes, but you went there before I asked you about it. I see you trying to, real quick. I gotta pass it to Dr. Thunder, but go ahead real quick.
Yeah. In my case, it's not as intentional. That's why I didn't use the word weaponize. It's not as intentional. It's just this guy's an influence in her life, and she adores him without realizing the effect that it has on her husband. And so I was in service one time, and the preacher was preaching with a handkerchief. He was sweating, and he threw his hand back. And by the time his hand came back to his face, he had a new, fresh handkerchief. Okay, and so I asked the women. I said, "How many of your husbands can watch football and take his Kool-Aid or whatever he's drinking, not even look at you, but just put the glass back and you refill it, and then he bring it back and drink, never acknowledge you, never say anything." And that's the kind of stuff they don't intentionally do that, but the honor that's demanded, the honor that's expected in that setting is not given at home.
Yeah, because the king always has a cupbearer.
Look like you got a goblet there, man. I don't know.
Yeah, I was gonna say something about that. Oh yeah, I like my little cups. I like my little cups.
So, so Pastor Brooks, you mentioned prosperity gospel, or you said. Let me say it the way you said it. You said the question is prosperity in the book? And yes, it is in the book.
Right.
But that's not what we're talking about, and that's not what Kevin was sort of pointing out.
Okay, I'm on a live program right now. Now, where are you ordering from?
Okay. Go ahead. I just muted him up
Okay.
real quick.
Yeah,
All right, cool. What Kevin is talking about is these pastors, ministers that are encouraging their parishioners, their church members that can't hardly even pay their own bills, that are to take another mortgage out on their house so that they can give to the church, to give to the private jet fund, to all of that kind of stuff, and then making some sort of like you're going to get these blessings and all of this other stuff out of this if you giving to this specific thing. If you give to the fund that's going to buy me a new car, I already have one, but that's going to give me another car, that's going to put me in another neighborhood in a house that none of you can afford. That's the stuff that he's talking about when he's mentioning that. He's not I don't think that Kevin in particular is against the idea of prospering because you're a hard worker, because you
okay, y'all came back. I'm sorry. I think something happened on my end where everybody like started freezing.
Okay.
I think everything is
All
good. So ignore me. Go ahead, Dr. Thunder.
Now, you're a former pastor of mine. That's how we know each other.
Right.
And in your preaching, I never got the sense that you were trying to take advantage of folks that with that kind of stuff. So when you say prosperity, what is it that you mean in particular?
That brethren, I would that you would prosper and be in health even as your soul prospers. Okay.
Right.
And so part of the covenant we have with God, and Abraham is our example, is that we prosper, that we have more than enough, and that we have enough to basically supply all the needs that's around us. In other words, the church should prosper. God has ordained that you would prosper, okay, as well as be in health. I believe in healing, okay, and that your soul prosper. And so to say the prosperity message is a gospel message. Now, if you have a charlatan who's taking and aiming everything, you've had guys do this with healing. They fake healings, and they tell you if you give this money that you get healed. And so everything gets misused. But in order to say that, just to say the prosperity message, because a lot of people came down on it, but now we got to get permission from Facebook to preach. We've got to dodge algorithms like playing hopscotch. Why? Because we don't own any platforms. And so whoever controls the money in a society controls the spiritual atmosphere in a society. And so you should preach. It's part of dominion. It's not a money thing. It's part of dominion. If you are broke, you have no dominion. Okay. And so part of our dominion covenant is prosperity. You have to prosper. We need rich people. We need billionaires in the kingdom. Okay. And we need to help cultivate those people, because when you don't have those people, you are at the mercy of where society is. And society is sick right now. These guys, Facebook, Google, these guys are demonic. And they're beginning to control the political atmosphere. They're beginning to control the choices that you make. They're dividing vaxxers from anti-vaxxers, and they want to take over. They're not godly people. They know more about you than you know about yourself. All because the church doesn't have its own platform where it can say, I can say what I want to say, and you can't kick me off. So prosperity is a dominion issue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's.
I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying right there, but I think most people they look at the extreme. Like it's nothing wrong with the church. My outside analysis. Well, I mean, I was in there,
right.
So I'll say it's nothing wrong with them, talking about people prospering. And you did make a good point about if you have a certain message, a view, ideology, religious beliefs, yes, you want people with money of your same mindset, because money can help get out the message and everything. But then there's buy me another private jet in the name of Jesus, Creflo Dollar aspect of it. So it's like,
No, but how many
where you
guys?
at on that?
How many guys have jets? See, it's a childish issue for me because we're not putting that on anybody else. Okay, we're not counting. How many jets did Hugh Hefner have? How many jets does these other people have? The guys who make whiskey once a year go around the earth. And so now, if I'm begging for money for a jet, then that's different. But the guys that I know who fly
That's
jets.
the point.
But what I'm saying is,
Yeah,
how
but that's
many
the
people
point.
are actually doing that? The guys I know are not begging for money for jets. Okay, and then track them. Where are they going on the jet? Okay, why do people even buy jets? Okay, because the regular airline thing doesn't work for them, and they go when they want to and they come when they want to. And so what I'm saying is jets is not a big problem in the body of Christ. There's not a lot of things not happening because guys have jets. And that's what I'm saying. And you don't want to condemn somebody who's given their life, man, to serve people. And some of these guys have said some unfortunate things when they try to raise money. You understand what I'm saying? But what I'm saying is overall, why is there so much pressure on them when these ungodly people can do? You got guys with $300,000 watches call women bees. They don't bother nobody.
And nor do they get attacked. And nor do they get attacked.
They don't get the same attack. You buy their records.
Yeah, but it's also a different standard.
Hold on.
Well,
I was just about to say. Let me ask this. Are y'all saying? It sounds like y'all saying that hey, pastors should be able to do what the ungodly do. Like that's
nope. I didn't say that. I didn't say that at all.
I didn't hear him say that either.
Okay.
But thank you, Pastor Brooks, for helping to bring things into focus, because you talked about, Bernard, people looking at extremes. Okay,
yeah,
so
I gave you that.
Bernard. Yeah, there's some crazy guys in everything. Okay, there's some guys that you shouldn't follow. Period. You know. But what I'm saying is, when you look at the church, man, I don't know many pastors that have jets.
I knew one, and he got rid of it because it cost him too much. But the reality about churches, not the myth, but the reality about churches in America is that the average size of a black church in the United States of America is 78 people.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? That's right. A large number of those that are within the church are part of the same family. Okay, so people are related. Every church is not a mega church. So when people give examples like that, it is an extreme. It is an extreme. It's shocking. It's a shock example, but certainly doesn't dwell on the reality of what really exists as far as how the church is comprised.
All right.
And
shout out to
a lot of
really quick. Let me acknowledge Snuggles with the $5 super chat. I do appreciate that. You said this is for the building fund, the jet trip. You cracking jokes. This is for the jet fund. When will this stuff get done, Pastor? And how much wives do y'all all have? All right, guys. She's clowning. She's clowning. And shout out to Sam I Am. He says great show and convo. Bernard and guests. Absolutely. Thank you to everybody who made it in the building. Make sure y'all hit the like button. Appreciate everybody who come through. Hit the like button, and those of you that have contributed to the show, I do greatly appreciate it.
I have a follow-up question.
Go ahead.
To the prosperity question. Okay, so and of course I don't have an issue with folks if they're doing things that are outside of the church, and that's how they acquire a wealth or whatever, and then they're spending that money and living however they want to live. I have no issue with that. Primarily my issue is with, as I said, and this is not I don't take it to be a massive issue. But I mean, I've worked in churches where, where the pastor was definitely taking advantage of the
Mhm.
situation and had folks that were below the poverty level taking
Mhm.
out second mortgages, doing stuff like, maxing out their credit card, so that they could give or purchase something for the pastor and all of that kind of
Right.
stuff. And that's the kind of
Right.
stuff I think that, although it isn't the majority of churches that are behaving that way, there are some, and
Yeah.
the tendency is to look at the stuff that is the shiniest object in the room. But
Yeah.
here's my follow-up
I agree with you.
question.
Hmm.
Here's my follow-up question. So I interviewed Ramil Amir. Shout out to him. This
Hmm.
past Monday, that interview was a premiere video on Tuesday at 10 a.m. And you can go and check that out on my Conversations with Dr. Thunder series. Actually, all the gentlemen on the panel right now have been interviewed on my series. So if you want to learn more about folks' background and stuff like that, you
Hmm.
can go check that out. But Ramil brought up an interesting figure, and for argument's sake, let's just
Hmm.
assume that the figure that he presented is accurate. Okay.
Right.
Now, maybe it's not accurate, but it sounds
Hmm.
like the number is probably accurate. He said that
Hmm.
since the 80s, the black church has taken over $428 billion in donations.
Hmm.
Okay. Now, if that's the case, where's the evidence in the communities that the churches are located? Where is the evidence of this $428 billion?
Right.
And yeah, so that's my follow-up.
Yeah. Well, what you have is, oh no, go on. What you have there is power with no strategy. Okay. When you see money being taken in and no physical evidence for it, it's because there's been no strategy for it. Okay. The money was taken. Everybody got their own building. Everybody's trying to build buildings. Everybody's doing expensive things. And you would have to balance that out with how many lives were changed. How many people would actually say, my life is better because of the church, and so I feel my investment was qualified. Okay, so you would have to look at life changes, look at the power. I look at the power of some denominations I'm not even a part of, and when I see successful people, they talk about that church at their root. They talk about coming out of that church, and so you're taking a tangible that is given for an intangible result. Okay. Now I have some serious beefs with the church. Okay, some serious beefs with the church. But it's one thing to leave a restaurant because of bad food. It's another thing to quit eating because of bad food. And the arguments I hear is not why I left this church, but why I left the church.
Hmm.
There's churches that feed men. There's churches that serve men. There's churches that are accountable with the money. There's churches that are good with their money. If you're giving money and you don't see no results, if you're giving to the building fund and there ain't no building, then go someplace else. If I order fries at McDonald's and they don't have them, I go someplace else. I don't quit eating fries. I don't go someplace in the corner and pout and say, well, I'll never eat fries again. Okay. And that's my issue with the people that are leaving church. I think people are leaving church for very different reasons than people are talking about.
Dr. Thunder, as it relates to the where's the money at, I think that Black church has the same issue that the Black community has, and that is number one, in the Black community, our dollars don't circulate through our community one time, and as an institution, we have the
6
same
hours.
problem. Yes,
6 hours.
6 hours. Yeah.
we have a big breast that's full of
Mhm.
milk, and we're nursing somebody else's baby to health. So yes, some of the money is in real estate, but did we use Black building contractors to build those buildings? In many cases, no. And in many cases, those contractors can't be found. We brought church buses, but did we buy them from a Black dealership? Did we buy them from a Black manufacturer, if they exist? And we brought automobiles, same thing. We buy, I mean, even our clothing. Where did it come from? Everything, the pews, where did it come from? But we are full of cash, a breast that's full of milk, but yet we're feeding the slave master's children to full nourishment, while we continue to really die on the vine, nursing other communities to great wealth. And then someone comes along and asks one day, where's the money?
Yeah. So you have to combine a prosperity message with an empowerment strategy. That's why I bought a school building. Okay. Now, my lack of leadership and understanding the world of raising money caused my thing to be on pause, because there were some things I didn't know. I just thought if you have a good idea, man, people are going to jump on. And I didn't realize how much you had to sell it to people to actually help people. Okay. And so the Black church has not been focused on empowering people and equipping people to succeed. You can set people up to succeed. Okay. You can give an environment to succeed, but we've been dependent upon the government. We let other people educate our kids. And now we find ourselves in a situation where we basically lost them because we had them for 2 hours and somebody else had them for 40. Okay. And that just doesn't work. That's not a good, that's not a good formula for success. And so we've not had a dominion mindset. We've had a survival mindset. And what you think about what you have is more important actually than what you have. And so we see ourselves as poor. We see ourselves as lacking. How much wealth do black people have, period? If you measured our wealth, we'd be anywhere from 6th to 12th wealthiest nation on earth. But our leaders keep selling us this poor thing, that we're poor, that we got to hold on because of the socialism. The socialism is advancing fast, and you can't sell people who are empowered socialism. You got to teach them that they have no power, that they have no voice, and that we need to take care of you. In our community, money has been raised based on our metrics, and it never gets back to the Black community. The Black community is pimped by liberals, by all these groups of people, and the pastors feel like they have to sign on. See, and so there's no dominion. Then when you come in saying, man, let's spend our own money, no, let's get a grant. Well, the grant, first thing the grant's going to do is write Jesus off of it.
Let's talk about that real quick. When you say the community is pimped by the liberals and the pastors feel that they have to sign on, that's
absolutely.
Elaborate on that one a little more. With how are the pastors signing on to it from your perspective?
Through elections, we have a
I was making sure we was on the same page, but yeah, I got you.
Yeah. But we have a loyalty that's beyond religious to the liberal mindset.
Yeah.
We have a loyalty to that mess, and if you come against it, you would have done better to bring a Hindu or a Muslim into your church to preach. The way you get ostracized by Black preachers for not signing on to that mess, which is destroying our neighborhoods.
Now, let me ask you this question. Now, you say that, but see, we know the majority of Black women vote Democrat. Okay,
right.
When you say something like that in your church, where it's basically you're de facto saying, "Hey, we need to divorce from the Democrats." How is your Black female congregation? How are they receiving that message?
Mix. There's some. I've lost thousands of people for saying that. Okay,
I would imagine.
but yeah, but the thing is that somebody got to deal with this Goliath, because they use us as the who was that took the fake horse and the Trojan horse. They use us as the Trojan horse to bring in every other ungodly thing into our nation, and so it's like, well, abortion is killing black babies by the hundreds of thousands. Yeah, but we need those people. Let's not raise a fuss, because we need them to help us. Okay.
671 on the abortion issue. 671 per 1,000. 671 per 1,000.
Yeah,
that's the rate. So 67.1% abortions of pregnancies that are taking place in the black community. 671 out of 1,000 are end in abortion.
And black women are targeted for abortion. In the state of Ohio, where
it's part of the plan. It's part of the plan.
Black women are less than 8%, 12% of the population, but suffer nearly 30% of the abortions. There's an imbalance, and I don't, but there are pastors that will bring these politicians through in their pulpits year after year, election after election, and know that these politicians, many of them diabolically opposed in their actions to even the doctrines of their churches. And it's mind-boggling, and not to mention the relationships and the deals that are cut to the sides because of promises and favors for, as Pastor mentioned, for grants and funding that will help their CDCs out, their community development corporations, Christian development corporations, for housing projects or what have you, that then tie their hands and their arms and places a muzzle over their mouths and doesn't allow them to speak freely or to tell the truth. We must educate in order to liberate. So we must educate to liberate. And one of the greatest injuries in our community is the black pastor's resistance to educate its members about the danger of sample ballots. The danger of a political party's sample ballot and following that sample ballot all the way through.
All right. Really quick. A lot of people were there super chatting some questions out here, but shout out to Muck City Productions. Appreciate you. Curtis Little just became a channel member. Our Being says great discussion. Yeah, a lot of people liking the discussion here. Let me see. It was some questions coming out here from the chat. Okay. I would botch your name if I tried to read it, but shout out to you. He says, brothers preach and teach on the corners every Sabbath with no collection plate. Ask one of these pastors to exegete Acts 7:48. Yash. Okay, I don't know what he's talking about, but if you guys, I don't know what I'm not gathering what questions he's asking, assuming that the passage, the scripture, is related to the conversation or something that y'all can respond to. I don't know if y'all want to, or if y'all want to look that up when you get a chance and then respond to him, but I'll go on to the next. I don't understand exactly what he's asking.
Oh, absolutely. And that's an issue for me. Acts 7:48. However, the Most High does not dwell in temples made with hands. Okay. And that's one of the big problems with the church, is that we teach New Testament truth with Old Testament patterns. Okay, if you follow the pattern of the house of God, you have the tabernacle, you have the Solomon's temple, okay, which was torn down and rebuilt, okay, and it was rebuilt with less glory because they didn't have as much money. And so the people who were old enough to remember the old temple cried. Okay, and then Haggai and these guys say, okay, look, don't worry, because the latter house will be greater than the former house. Well, when Jesus shows up, the building of God, God's building, is now a person. Okay, God's residence, his address is now Jesus. And when Jesus is leaving, he tells them in John 14, look, don't be troubled. There are many rooms in my Father's house. And going from Jesus to the church was a transition from a one-member house to a many-membered body with the same charge. Okay, now our building's important. Yes, we need to gather in buildings, but God, he doesn't dwell in houses made with hands. Didn't say he doesn't dwell in houses. It says he doesn't dwell in houses made with hands. Okay, you are the house he built to dwell in. So the house of God is the body, the spiritual house. That's why I changed the name of my church from Christian Life Center to Stones Church. Okay, because Stones is a representation of the living spiritual house of God, which is 24/7. Okay, we made ministers professional, and we created lay people who just survive until Sunday to go to church. Okay, how can I say it? Every Christian is a minister, and your ministry is from Sunday to Sunday. Okay, you come back to the gathering, whether it's online or in a building, but that building is not the house of God. That building is where his people meet. Okay, I am the house of God. You are the house of God. Your heart is the sanctuary of God, and that's what it's talking about.
All
I
right.
love that he brought that up, because that's one of the transitions the present church has to make, to where what you're doing right now, Bernard, is ministry. You're having influence. You're changing things. See
No,
what I'm saying?
no,
And this is more
I
important.
understand what you mean. I understand what you
What
mean.
you're doing, Thunder, is ministry. What Coach and I are doing is equipping people to minister, equipping you to live your life powerfully as a representative of God.
All right, Mr. Donnie Mack in the building. He says, with pastors, musicians, and guests, what is everyone's opinion on churches with strong black men choirs?
Well, I don't have one.
You don't have a choir at your church?
No.
Wally D says, the church is on game. If there's no sex outside of marriage and you only have one shot with one person, you will get married when you're young, attractive, and able to pull the most attractive mate. That some degree touches on what I wanted to get into about almost touches on what I want to get into about the arranged marriage. So we
haven't hit that yet, have we?
No, we haven't. We'll be getting there real soon. Mr. Barlow, thank you for the super chat. He says a lot of pastors are feminists. Now, do you think that's the case, or is it more so they're catering to women, and like you just talked about the political end of it, they're getting in bed with liberal politicians? Because I used to see that too, where the pastor would preach and he would say things, against the LGBTQ movement. He would say things against women, pregnancy out of wedlock. He'll say things against women getting abortions. He'll say things against that. But then when every 2 or 4 years, he'll parade people through there that are in favor of all of that, in favor of all of that stuff that he said he's against. And then he would do the sleight of hand trick of, oh, we can't just be single issue voters. There's other things that we benefit, or other things that we're getting.
A double-minded man is unstable in all of his ways, and I would agree with Mr. Barlow. Is that yeah, he is a feminist. You are what you do, and you're either gonna do one thing or the other, and if you're working on it, okay, improve. But this is this is what we're finding, and yeah, they claim to be one thing, but yet their relationships and their actions bear out who they are.
Yeah.
So to this the point, the political point, neither party. So really what we have is a one party system with two factions. Because with respect to the primary issue that affects men in general and black men in particular, feminism has taken over both parties. Both parties are have totally bought that whole thing and are taking that as a default.
Mm.
Um, and I'm a third party guy.
Right.
I think most folks know that that's something that I offer up. I think more of us need to at least act like we're going to not vote the same way. And I heard once, and this is interesting. Even if black folks said, you know what, for this next election, we're just going to all vote Republican just to see, just to prove that we might do something different. And you actually have to pay attention to what it is that we want, because we don't, they make promises to everyone else and they deliver on those promises. To us, they don't even make promises. They just know that we're going to vote that way. And so even if anything, if we could do anything at all to at least make the Democrats think that we might not be totally locked up, we might not be totally, decided on our, on that point, then I think we could get some different sort of results out of politics. But first of all, I don't think that's ever going to happen. Secondly, I'm not sure that the Republicans, well, they've shown we are right now where we are as a result of the two-party system. And so jointly Republicans and Democrats own that. So until we either decide, hey, we need a black party, or we need to do something different, or at least to vote in a block in a different direction, I don't see anything changing.
See, one of the things you got to realize, which is why I'm so interested in the manosphere, because I'm interested in men, reaching men. I feel that part of my calling is to reach men, and I don't live life at the race level. Okay, I try to live from the spirit. Okay, I'm not ignorant. I'm not avoiding issues. I'm not in denial. Okay, but the race thing is just too painful for me. Okay, and so if a girl has a reputation for being sold out to somebody who abuses her, who's going to talk to her? She's stupid. Okay, who's going to talk to her? Well, I heard she does this. She does this for her man. He cheats on her. He does all these things. Well, who's going to approach her? Who wants to compete with that? Okay. And what you do if you're a single woman, you don't commit to nobody who's not committed to you.
Mm.
Why do women? Why is there 80% or 75% black women are single? Okay, because they give what they have without expecting you to give what you have.
That's facts.
And so I'm telling women, look, you have the power of sex. Men have the power of marriage. Don't give them sex till they give you marriage. That's biblical and that's just practical. People who serve fine food don't compete with people who serve fast food. Okay, so what is it that you want? Well, I want to be married. Well, why are you sleeping around? Why are you playing house? If you want to be married, hold out for marriage. Well, the guy can get it someplace else. Look, over half the people on earth have a vagina. And if you're trying to compete in that market, you have no power at all. A woman's power is in her uniqueness. Okay, is that she's the only her on earth. Okay, and that if you're not going to do what you're supposed to do, then you don't get it. But that's the reason why so many people are single. That's the reason why there's so many baby mamas and all this stuff. It's simply because women don't understand that they have the power of sex.
Okay. Now I'm glad you took it there, because that sort of leads into what we what we came here to talk about.
Yeah.
Let's look at it. Let's look at it like this. Well, hold on, real quick. Shout out CJ NBM. Shout out to you. Quincy X is excellent show. Shout out to you. Appreciate everybody. Who do we got? Falcon Black in the building. Shout out to you. Sincere cracking up. He says church seems like one big business nowadays, in my opinion. We're gonna put that one on the shelf for a minute. Even though the pastor at the church that I used to go to, he used to say that well, I'm not gonna name the church, but he did used to say this church it is a business and he's the CEO. He used to literally say that. So in many ways, it's hard to deny the simple fact that it's a business, but we'll put that on the shelf. And
We're a small black business. We're a small black business in our community. My church is a small black business in my community.
yeah, okay, yeah. I mean, I'm glad you own it, because I've heard quite a
No
few.
reason not to, there's no reason not to own it.
Exactly,
It's-
exactly. No, I've heard somebody try to argue around that, but it's really hard to get around it. So yeah, we can kind of keep it keep it moving on that one. No, but as far as the women in marriage thing, the lack of marriage in the black community, the lack of families in the black community, even if you look at people who aren't getting married, because I definitely understand, and that's a flashpoint in the manosphere. Going down there signing those legally binding documents at the courthouse is it's something that men in legitimately should have some problems with. We can debate the odds and ends of it, but it's definitely something that you bare minimum you got to educate yourself on before you do it. Definitely. But as far as families coming together in a traditional way, the one institution that should be, leading the charge and facilitating that, if we can agree on these simple things, that the outcomes for black people born into marriages are better than all the baby mama, baby daddy ism that's going on out there. We could agree that people born into marriages have overall better outcomes. The data
Absolutely.
shows that.
Yeah.
So
Right.
so the black church ought to be trying to lead the charge in getting that done. However, we talked about earlier, even though I do got to give props to you, Joe Bruce. I didn't ask you, Pastor Coates, about how many the highest percentage of men that you've had in your church. But I know Pastor Joe Brooks said he was 50-50 at one point,
At
but
one
then
time, not now.
yeah, but
Not
yeah,
now.
and rightfully, like you said, women catch wind that it's a church that has 50-50 male membership, they're going to flock in there. So you won't stay 50-50 for long. But however, for most churches, there's no men there. All right, there's no men in the church, and this goes back piggybacking on what we talked about with the video with Kevin Samuels, where he was saying basically, if you want men in the church, you have to ultimately give men what they want. And men at a certain point, at a certain stage in their life, eventually it comes back to, you know, they do end up wanting families at some point. Maybe not in their 20s, maybe not in their early 30s, but at some point
Yeah.
they're going to want families. They go to the church, and then what do they find? A bunch of single mamas. A bunch of women, single mamas, a bunch of kids. That's what they find there. So even with the old school proposition of arranging marriages, the church arranging marriages, who would they even be arranging them to? But that's where I I got to thinking along the lines of, okay, we're talking about 50% of black men single and childless. When men start getting into that point to where the getting over 30, into the mid 30s, late 30s, early 40s, they're getting into a place where they're making more money and probably ready to settle down. And you look at the church where there's yes, it's a lot of baby mamas in there. No, those men who've built themselves up, they probably not, and they're not interested. I mean, y'all have essentially proven that. Or was that Dr. Thunder who told the story about the pastor who tried to tell the men they needed to wife up these single mothers, and they just left the church and didn't come back? Like,
Yeah.
so where do these women come from? If the church is going to provide men what they want, and men want wives, and men are, you know, men are looking for wives. And I just go ahead and put it blunt and controversially. I mean, Kevin Samuels touches on this story of they want young, feminine, fertile wives. Would that be something that the black church, could even um, get get remotely in the business of arranging marriages? Uh, More or less, I'm trying to put it in the least controversial way possible, because
Don't
if
say it.
yeah, essentially start while they're young, start grooming the young girls for essentially arranged marriages to these these men who will show up at the church, to go in and get their young wife that they're in position to take care of. They're properly vetted by the men in the church. The young girls have been groomed and raised up, and these men are properly vetted by the men in the church, and they're being paired off. Is that something that's essentially de facto, if I understand it right? The church used to do that to some degree.
Yep. Yep.
So would that even be a possible thing that the church could even think about doing without getting without getting the building burned down?
Bernard, I think that the church, as you mentioned, has historically has done that. You're talking about small communities of people that know each other and participate in activities with each other frequently. The church helps to define courtship restrictions and procedures. There are families that interact with each other within the church. There's belief um, um, similarities that's within the church. There's value similarities that's within the church. The church has traditionally have provided this, and I believe that many churches have gotten away. I mean, beyond the marriage courses and single ministries or what have you, but the church is not as strongly engaged in cultivating the relationship between men and women, just period. And what a man should do, what a woman should do, what a man should be like, what a woman should be like, what are roles and responsibilities. That's because that's part of it. It's just now we're not talking about blind relationships or blind arrangements. Something to do. There's familiarity with again with individuals as well as with families, but the church should play a cultivating role in helping to cultivate our people to be the best husbands and be the best wives, to be the best men, to be the best women, to be the best parents that we can be, while understanding what's happening even outside of our four walls, that a lot of stuff has even penetrated inside the four walls, the impact that it has on the psyche of the human being. So you can't ignore that all this other stuff is happening in society, without trying to counteract it and program against it inside of the church. And that's where I think we have been less effective in doing. You have to look at what's happening to us as a people. And I go back to as a people because unfortunately, when white America has a cold, we get pneumonia. And in our situations is dire. We're at a critical state, right? We're at a critical state right now, and we're majoring in the minors instead of we're minoring majoring the minors instead of minoring in the majors, and it's however that goes. We're not concentrating on what we should be concentrating on, and I'm telling you, we're at we need to reassess our position immediately, just to survive, okay? Because if not, we're going to become extinct as Black people. Okay, so so we have this institution called church. I believe that we have the potential to play a positive role in helping our people survive and not be destroyed for not having the knowledge of at least of what's happening and how to counteract its negative effects on us.
Hey, if I can jump in here, so this is the arranged marriage thing is interesting. I'm looking at the comments, and I'm noticing that there are a few folks that, and I can imagine folks that are sort of like incensed that we'd even be talking about the possibility of arranged marriage. But it's gotten this bad. That's why we're having this conversation. It's because it's gotten to that point where this needs to be the discussion. Okay. So you provide a solution that doesn't include arranged marriages. That's a better solution. And I'll entertain it.
Right.
But as far as I know, the church, if the church can address some of these other issues, and when I say the church, that's kind of a nebulous term, because there are many bodies that are called churches. Okay. In particular, we're talking about the Black church. Okay. So if the Black church can get a lot of these issues that we have discussed together so that they can get more men in the church, at that point, I think by following some of the suggestions that Kevin Samuels made about how the money is spent, actually spending real money in singles ministry, not sort of just like, well, hey, that's something that you all go on and just do that, but actually having that a central focus, because understanding that the church is not going to regenerate itself, it's not going to populate itself without the church making it a priority that families even get started in the first place. So I think that's a point there. I would even extend this conversation to what used to happen in the past, where it used to be that a lot of these kids that were had out of wedlock, other members in the church would step up and adopt them. Now, folks don't like to hear that kind of talk. They don't like to hear that, because right now it's like, if you even try to mention that, it's like, well, how is it, this is my child, this is my this. Well, it's all about you. What about the kid? What about what's best for the kid? And so if you've already done this thing that was ill-advised, now you're going to end up punishing the kid because you won't consider in any of these other options. In the past, there were enough folks in the church that were interested in that and that would step up to do that. At this point, and mostly because there's a lack of men in the church, and because our communities are all they're led by women, because 80%, 80% of the families in our communities, are led by single mothers. I mean, you have all of this this cycle, and until you return the man to the prominence, to the position he's supposed to be, it's going to be very hard to address and solve a lot of these problems. So, in addition to arranged marriages, I would say the church, Black church, should return to, as it used to do when a woman got in trouble. They used to call this being in trouble. When they got in trouble, they had a recourse other than just being a baby mama or abortion. They had a third option that was a strong option. So,
but in the meantime, things have gotten complicated between then and now. That single mother may have 3-4 kids. 2 of them may have the same father. The rest of them may have different daddies. Some of their
well, she can get more money that way.
Two of the daddies may be involved in their lives. Two of them may not be. And then she might not get child support or any type of support from any of them. On the man's side, he may have 3, 4 kids out there, and he may be working every day, and all of his money is going to pay child support. So therefore, his value as it relates to being a participatory partner in a potential relationship just isn't there, because he basically has depleted income. So
Right. Well, hold on, wait.
it gets complicated.
That's why when I set it up, I predicated it on the 54% of black men that were childless, something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah,
I predicated it on, I
yeah.
predicated it there because
Yeah,
I
this
understand that
statistic.
if it's a man that got a lot of babies out there, then he ain't offering much. The woman who got a bunch, she was a single mother. The man who got his stuff together and don't got no kids, he don't want her. That's why I controversially said, hey,
There's
get them well-groomed, indoctrinated, grew up in the church,
there's
indoctrinated 18-year-olds, accept some age gap dating and marrying, and marry them off
right.
with productive, well-vetted men in their 30s, send them off, go get a family. But anyway,
So what happens to the other
controversial.
men? What happens to the other men, though?
Yeah, I just want to say this one stat
I
real
got nothing
quick,
for them.
and then I'll.
Hold on, wait, Joe Brooks has been trying to get in for me. Is it going to be real quick, Dr. Thunder? Because I do got to let.
Yeah, real quick,
Go
real quick.
on.
Yeah, real quick. So there's a statistic that we need to be aware of, because a lot of the sort of demonizing black men and finger wagging black men from the pulpit, and in our community, is not fair. It's wrong, and it's also not fair, because it's a small percentage of men that are deadbeats and that are knocking up all these women. It's a small percentage. So it's like 16% of the men are impregnating like 80% of the women. And disproportionately that's why disproportionately these 80% of the women, they have multiple baby daddies. So that means the 16% are really busy. But what it shows is that there's a breakdown in mate selection, the ability to say no, and to look at the qualities in a person and say, this is a good quality, this is not a good quality, this is superficial. Now this thing here, this is really actually important. That whole thing is broken. In our community, women are fine with sharing. They would prefer sharing so that they can get the swagged out dude that's being pre-selected. He's already got kids by a bunch of other. So hey, if they want him, I want him too. And it turns into that kind of thing. But 74%, 84% of us are not doing all of this, running around knocking everybody up. And it's a lot of misinformation, a lot of wrong stuff that's being said about black men. All men are dogs. All men are XY. Well, but the only men that you've had experience with is this 16%. We know that those dudes are a hot mess. What about the rest of us? Okay.
All right. Joe Brooks, thank you for your patience. You got it.
No problem, man. I just want to ask, you guys are talking about arranged marriage. Give me a short definition of what an arranged marriage is.
Well, I would
What are you
say that
saying?
essentially, basically, a guided marriage. I was looking at it from the perspective of the church, and so that's why I said well indoctrinated young girls getting paired up with well vetted, competent, productive men. Older,
Okay.
except in age gap dating. I'm predicating this off some of Kevin Samuel's concepts.
Okay.
That's what I
Yeah.
was saying. Basically, it's guided.
Yeah. I think
It's guided and put together. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah. I think one of the things you have to deal with is that there's been an intentional, and I don't call my church a black church. Okay.
Okay.
Because that puts me in a box, I feel, where I have to have certain trappings certain styles of preaching and all that. And so I've had people, especially white people, say, well, you have a black church. I said, no, I'll take you to a black church. My church is not a black church. My church is not culturally a black church. It has mostly black members.
Okay.
I feel that part of the problem with the black church is that it's so culturally rooted that it's hard for it to move. Okay. So now, given that, I don't think so when I hear arranged marriage, I hear somebody other than myself told me who I'm going to marry. Is that what you're saying? Like in Hindu culture where this kid is born, they're both 3 months old, they're going to be husband and wife. And when they grow up, they get introduced to each other as husband and wife. You guys are going to get married. Is that what you're saying? That's an arranged marriage.
So I think there's two ways that we could take this. One is the thing that you're talking about where people don't even know each other. Their families hook them up.
Yeah.
When they get to a certain age,
Yeah.
you know that that's the person that you're going to marry. You don't get to choose. Right. You have no say in it. You haven't even met the person. Okay.
Right.
Now that's something that happens other places. What we're talking about more of is more of a grooming process that would, Kevin Samuels has frequently talked about how dating doesn't work. Dating doesn't work, but courtship works because in the beginning, you're marriage minded. You know what it is that you're looking for. And so you can easily weed folks out. And you use people's families, their communities, their churches, their other associations to vet people. All right. And so more of what we're talking about is sort of a more developed courtship process that would incorporate the oversight of the church, and the church would need to sign off on.
Yeah, I got you now. And what you have, what you guys are talking about is it would be great for a church to offer a program like a rites of passage. Okay, this is what a woman is. This is what a man is. I've done rites of passage. What is the responsibilities of a man on earth? Okay, this is what a man should bring to the table. This is what a woman should bring to the table. And I don't like that term necessarily because it sounds transactional. Okay, but we do have roles that we have to work out. Okay, and so I believe in that. I believe what we're missing is fathers. Okay. And so what you have to recognize is the attack on fatherhood. Okay, we survived slavery. The black family survived slavery. The black family survived Jim Crow. I hear people pointing to slavery as the breakup of the family. No, you look at the data in the 60s, only 12% of babies were born out of wedlock.
Oh yeah, that's a reoccurring flashpoint over here. We talk about that all the time. How the slavery, Jim Crow, none of that broke up the black family. It wasn't until all the feminist ideals got
forced
inception
integration
into everybody's mind.
The 60s, when they start helping us, okay, is when you kill. That's where you kill the fathers. In the 70s, okay, early 80s, I was working for General Motors, okay, in a small town called Three Rivers in Michigan, okay. I lived in Kalamazoo. I'm hearing an echo. Okay.
That might be me. Hold on. I think I can.
And
my speaker. Yeah.
There was a housing development next to apartments. Okay. I took a day off. I went because I actually wanted to live in Three Rivers, close to where I worked. Okay. Went in, the office was closed. The rental office was closed. There was a girl sitting on the curb. And I said, man, it says that the rental office should be open. She says, you can come back tomorrow. I said, well, I took off work to come here. Okay. So she went and opened it up. She was the person showing the place. Okay. So we look at the apartment. The apartment is nice. The apartment would suit us. And she said, I said, well, how much is it? She said, well, how much do you make? I said, what? She said, yeah, how much do you make? I said, I work at General Motors. She said, oh. So she went to the top of the thing, and I couldn't afford it. But my wife could have left me and moved right in. Okay? And that's what I'm talking about. Is that now how many arguments do you survive when the woman realizes I can live in a better place without your behind? Okay, it changes the dynamic, and I'm not saying that women should be dependent, but there is a built-in thing in a relationship that motivates to keep you together. Now, the houses they were building across the way, I couldn't get any money for that. She couldn't get any money to buy a house, but they would pay her full rent.
Yeah,
and I could be left I'd be left out. And so what I'm saying is our society is built to reward single motherhood. It's built to reward those things. And so we've got to deal with that. And at some point in the church, we've got to build it into people that you don't take help that enslaves you. That which help that doesn't empower you enslaves you. And so the last thing you want is somebody bringing you help all the time. It's going to kill you. It's going to kill your motivation. It's going to kill your creativity. You talk about black people, man, we are creative people. We know how to make it. But now we don't. Man, they kill the creativity. We are responsible people. When we weren't allowed in colleges, we had our own colleges. I don't know of any Mexican colleges.
Yep, I point that out all the time. Yeah.
But you understand what I'm saying? And so here you taking this dynamic people who have survived slavery, survived Jim Crow with their families intact. Yeah, if you compare our wealth to other people's, it's not much. But if you look at our wealth individually, man, we're powerful. That's why people build stores in our neighborhoods. They don't come there because we don't have any money. You know what I'm saying?
Let's go.
And so what I'm saying is we've got to examine this lie about this help that we're getting. Okay. And preachers have to take the chance, the risk of actually teaching people the truth.
Yeah.
And telling people, man, it's in your personal development that your security is, not in somebody else liking you. Part of a slave's mindset is that my life doesn't get better until my slave master says okay. And that's not true in America. You don't need permission to succeed anymore. You have a good idea, you trust in God to help you, you can make it. And we're raising up a group of people who can't make it. Like, where did that come from? You understand what I'm saying? And to me as a pastor, that hour of influence I get every Sunday is to build in you an identity, is to build in you, is to empower you and let you know that you can. Not some new age, I can be anything I want. That's a big lie. You can't be anything you want. But there's a design for you. God has a place for you. He has a design for you, and you can be amazing. You may not be famous, but you can have an amazing life in this country as a black person, and nobody wants to say that because we don't want to let white people off the hook.
But that has to be modeled. That has to be modeled for our young men in particular and young women.
Absolutely.
Is that it has to be modeled. They have to see an example of that. But what they have been given is other examples of what they realistically cannot achieve.
Right.
So we have to model what does it mean and define what does it mean to be successful. You know.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. You're modeling it, Pastor. Pastor, how many seats do you have in your church?
And chairs, actual chairs in the church, about 150.
And they're empty 166 hours a week.
Yeah.
And we drop our kids off.
And that's why I argue that as the church, as a building, we are embedded in our community. So our churches need to be converted into learning centers every day of the week and utilized for the upliftment of the people that normally would just be in there waving, raising their hands. We have to become the learning centers.
Okay, you're in Michigan, brother.
Yeah,
Bernard.
Mm-hmm.
Every kid that goes to school gets $9,000, about, right?
Every kid that goes to school get what?
$9,000 a year for their education.
I mean, are you saying that's what they've calculated as the cost of educating one child?
No, I'm saying if a child goes to a school, the state will give them $9,000 for that kid.
Public
Oh,
school,
gotcha. Yeah, I think that's accurate.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, that's accurate.
You can give a kid an amazing education for $9,000.
Absolutely.
Okay. And our churches are empty. If we had vouchers, if $9,000 followed, what's 150 times 9? And rather than some liberal, crazy teacher teaching them, you got Aunt Shirley, you got Mama Nim in the building. Okay, nobody gonna cuss out Aunt Shirley. You see what I'm saying? That's what's happening in these schools, man. These places are messed up.
That the liberals told us. That the liberals told us.
Willing. How you gonna raise sane kids in crazy schools? See what I'm saying? But we don't say nothing because you got unions. You don't want to upset the cart. And I'm saying upset the cart, man, because these people are failing. They're failing our kids, man. In churches, and I'm trying to tell the pastors, man, look, change your focus. Let's put the kids first for once. Okay, well, everybody said, well, you got this gay person, you got this woman wants abortion. What about the kids? Let's put the kids, if we put the kids first, the answers will fall in place because we're putting the kids first. Because I'm 68 now, and I'm realizing big church, small church, whatever, the most important thing about my life right now is the handoff. And the scary thing is that I don't have nobody to hand this vision to, man. It's like, are you just going to keep shouting and singing? You go to pastors and say, man, this is going on in our city. They're shooting each other in our city. They're either going to march or have a service. They're going to sing, march. Maybe they'll march first and then sing. Maybe they'll sing and then march. And maybe they'll sing, then march, and then have a picnic. And I'm like, are y'all out of your mind? We've got money. We got taxes we pay. What if every black person said, give us vouchers? Let the money follow our kids. And let's pay. Man, every kid could have a Mac if we gave every kid $9,000. These kids are used to screens. Well, we need in-person learning. It ain't working. You're 19th in the world in education. At what point do people get a failing grade and get fired? And say, no, you don't get to do this anymore because you are failing our kids. We give us that money that's following our kids already. We ain't asking for no new money. The money you already spending on the kids, give it to Pastor Coates and multiply by 150. Give him some curriculum, some computer screens, and mama them, and watch what he does. And in 20 years, you have your kids back. But we keep supporting systems that are failing us. And all the time screaming about racism. And it ain't racism. It's your lack of a strategy to help the people you serve. We had New Genesis, man, I had kids getting websites. You know what the pastors in town did? Rather than send me $50, they sent their kids to get trained. No money, no nothing. Oh, Brooks gonna train people for free. And it's like, man, I'm doing this for the kids. And I didn't know that me spending my own money would insult people. We can't let them know that we have money. Man, we got money. When you stand before Jesus, he ain't gonna ask you about the grants you getting right.
Well,
he gonna say you had the power. If you just drive a 5-year-old car and live in a small house, you had the power to change your world, but you wouldn't do it because nobody would give you and pay for you helping your own kids. I didn't mean to get mad at y'all.
All right.
No, that's all right, man.
All right.
That's all right.
Sincere Cracking Up says, I don't even know if we moved on from this comment, but he says the church should be uplifting people instead of making dollar. Can the pastors answer why it has come to that now? Respectfully, we kind of dealt with that earlier. I don't know if y'all really, he was adamant in the chat about read my super chat, let them answer it. But
my thing is, what church do you go to? Why would you go to a church that doesn't lift people? Yeah. What church do you go to? Like I say, I've gone to bad restaurants before, man. I just didn't go back to that restaurant. I need to quit eating.
It's tough eating.
That's just dumb.
All right, Doug in the building. He says to a comment earlier, the church is a business. The Catholic Church is oldest organized. Oh yeah. I think I already read it. Oldest organized church started the banking system through the Knights Templar. Thank you for the super chat. Appreciate that. Thank you everybody who has supported the stream. I know we got another question coming out of here from Adonis 1909. He says, for all being negative to the idea of arranged marriages, what is our society looking like compared to other religions or countries that have complete families? Clearly there is a difference. Yeah, I mean that's
And
sort of where I took it.
that was my point, right? That was my point exactly. I mean, you are taken aback because we're talking about the possibility of arranged marriages, but what is your solution? You
Well, see, the thing,
present to me a solution.
okay, freedom is harder to walk out than bondage. Okay, because freedom involves choices, freedom involves being responsible. And so, yeah, if you tell me this is who I'm going to marry and tell me we're going to be married for 50 years, I'll do it. Okay, arranged marriages work because in those cultures, they have a thing called commitment. Okay, you get in our country where there's actually freedom. And so now the people who've been married 50 years chose each other. They were committed. They were faithful. They worked through their problems. We can't even wait for food, much less for happiness. Okay, we have an instant society. If this ain't working for me, and one of the things you guys have got to include in your stats is that there's more people living together than they are married now.
More people living together than what are married?
Yeah,
than married.
Living together. Okay, living together but not married. No, I can't.
Yeah, look at the stats.
So he's saying that there's more people that are cohabitating
not with children
than actually married.
They're not cohabitating with children. That this is the data on that 36%. I don't know how well y'all can see that, but and you look at the column where it says black people, it's where children living arrangements differ by race and ethnicity. Yeah, with black people, the blue part is black people married with children. The yellow part is just the cohabitating with children, and the pink is just they just live with the children just live with the mom. And then there's the orange where there's where it's just the dad only, and then green and kids only with either one of the parents.
Bernard, I wasn't speaking to children. I was speaking to people being together. There's more people that I've heard by stats that are living together than are married. I'm not talking about children. Okay. Right, what I'm saying to you is why, and I think this is on men. Okay, why do you live with somebody? Because I'm not going to have children by somebody I'm not committed to. Okay, so what you've lost is this commitment. Okay, and so what I'm saying to women is that covenant is the only safe context for intimacy. Okay, and so you have a marriage issue. More people are living together than are married.
All right.
Does that make sense?
No, I understand what you're saying. I was trying to find the comment. Somebody had super chatted a question that I can't find anymore. So I was trying to find that question, but
okay.
I didn't lost where I was at. I lost where I was at. Dr. Thunder, if you got anything, you can go ahead and okay. Oh, we might have a good question right here. Sorry, but Reverend Brooks is simply wrong when it comes to Black Americans. We cohabitate less than all other Americans, as the IFS chart clearly indicated.
I wasn't comparing us to another group.
All right. Go ahead, Dr. Thunder.
Yeah. Well, I do have to get going because I have another stream at noon.
Correct.
I'm not trying to poach your viewers or anything. But yeah, I do have.
No, I should have been dropping your link. My bad. I forgot to. Hey, moderators, real quick, drop Dr. Thunder's link in the chat room. Y'all can
So
go and subscribe. And to the two pastors, if y'all can drop your link in the back chat if y'all have like a website or any a Facebook page or whatever. If anywhere y'all would like people to go find you, put it in the back chat, right in the private chat, and then I'll drop the link
Technology
for it if they want to, if they
challenge.
so they can go find you. I forgot to do that. I normally do that when I have guests on.
yeah.
I make sure that their
Well,
links so where people can go find them is all
yeah.
spammed out through the chat. So I forgot to do that. So
So let me
moderators, go ahead.
so let me plug a couple. I'm going to plug a couple things, and then I'm going to log off. Thanks again, Bernard, for agreeing to have this on your platform. I think this is a really important discussion, one of the most critical discussions that we have. So, but this is a couple things I'm plugging. I'm doing my lessons with Dr. Thunder at noon. I'll leave that video up for a while, so folks, after the Bernard stream is over, then you can go and check that out. Also, I direct the top big band at Ohio State, and we are having, if you go to the School of Music website, we're focusing on the music of black men. Focusing on the music of black men. In particular, the concert's going to feature the music of Dizzy Gillespie and the great composer and arranger John Clayton. If you want to know who that is, you can go to my Conversations with Dr. Thunder series and check out that interview. And then I'm interviewing Donovan Sharp and Devin Sharp on that video should go live on Sunday.
Whoa, how you
10.
pull that off, man? How you pull that off? You getting all the big interviews. Dang.
Why? And next week, I've got some really cool things happening. Minister Japp, I'm interviewing on Monday. And then on Wednesday, I am interviewing Paul Elam. So that's going to be very interesting. A lot of good stuff. This Sunday on Solo TV 84's channel, I've got my panel show called Case Closed with Chantel Simone and Ike Ogiamian and Ramil Amir, and then of course Solo, myself. We're going to be talking about R. Kelly. So anyhow, that's a few of the things that are happening. But come on over to my channel and check it out if you want to see me on social media. Dr. Thunder Music, all one word, everywhere. That's my website. Also, spell the word out, doctor. Spell the doctor word out, Dr. Thunder Music. Thanks again, and I'll see you all later.
Thanks.
All right, thanks, Dr.
Sean.
Thunder. So Zero got a good super chat. And Zero, I was actually waiting on you to send you to give me something to work with up here. But he says arranged marriage requires legal and cultural enforcement for participation. That's why I controversially said yes. Indoctrinate the young girls at the church, indoctrinate them real good, and marry them off. Send them off with well vetted, single and childless men. Yeah, I mean, if the church is trying to solve the problem of families and whatnot,
yeah, we need to
that
focus
would be
on
the
it,
best way to do it. Because single and childless productive men ain't trying to come to the church and take on all the baby mamas. And if the young girls, if you're not indoctrinating them, if you're not using the structure and institution of that church to indoctrinate them, they just going to start gradually getting pregnant like the rest of them and just become more baby mamas in the church. So I was like, indoctrinate the girls and men who want families, yeah, they'll show up at the church if it's young virgins being handed off. So men will show up. The church want to solve the problem of families. Yeah, that's one way. That's one way how they could get that done. It's very controversially, but that is one way how they would get that done. And so that's
Brother
what I was
Bernard.
saying, and I know that would be difficult. Real quick, let me get through the rest of the super chat. He says, "How is that solution more feasible than temporarily walking away and starving the feminism?" Well, you see, we just talked about earlier how the church is more or less in bed with feminism or in bed with the Democratic Party. So if we're talking about this from the church perspective, I don't know how they're gonna. That's a suggestion that will be thrown out there, and I don't know if that's. I honestly can't say that's even more feasible if you're talking from the church perspective when that's in bed with the Democratic Party. I don't know, but and he said that is the root cause. Walking off doesn't require force. I didn't say force. I said indoctrination of young girls and vetting of the indoctrination of young girls, accepting age gap dating and marrying them off with the properly vetted men. If the church is about that life, then that wouldn't be a problem. I don't see where that would be a problem. But anyway, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. I want to thank you and again, Dr. Thunder in his absence for the opportunity to participate in this most important discussion. I have a hard close now. I have to go, but I would say that while white America or white supremacy is engaged in a civil war, it is an important time for us as Black people and as the Black church as a community is to reassess again our position, our condition, okay, and get a sense of what's really going on around us so that we can make some critical decisions in the various crises that we're impacted by. Because if we don't come up with a game plan immediately, our condition is not going to improve, but it's going to get worse. So, I thank you, Dr. Brooks, for everything that you're doing, man. God bless you. So
God
good
bless you,
to see
man.
you.
Yeah.
And Bernard, God bless you. And may God bless us all with the ever increasing light of his understanding.
All right, yeah, thank you for
God bless
coming
you.
on. We may wrap this up pretty soon. I did put the link. I don't know how
Yeah,
much more time you have. I mean,
I'm good, but I get it. We've been on a while, so I get it. But
yeah.
I'm
Well,
here.
no, I mean, I put the link in the chat if somebody want to come up and throw some questions at you. I put the link in the chat. We'll do that. I'll read a few more questions from the super chats,
Yeah.
and if somebody wants to come up and ask you a few questions, I'll open the lines up for that, and we'll see how
Okay.
that goes. But Zero
He said,
back in here, he says the root issue is incentive. The incentive of legal power / protection puts men at a disadvantage. Yes, in my plan, it didn't. If the indoctrinated girls reach the age of 25 and be like, I don't really like this no more, I want to go have a few hot girl summers, they still can, divorce. And seeing as this properly vetted man who's
right.
productive, he would be making more money than her. She wouldn't have all the modern women advantages in that she's making money, so she would be basically just at zero, which means she would be in a legit situation where she could take half. So that's where that plan would fall apart if the indoctrination does not hold. That is the flaw in my plan. Your walk away
Okay.
starve the system plan has its flaws too that we've talked about, but we yeah,
Yeah.
I threw it out there to the pastors. Threw it out there to the pastors. Wanted to see what they thought and pick their brain on that. Zero, you came with another one. Come on, Zero. All right, just come on up. Zero, you sent another. I think he sent another one. You might as well just come on. He said, without law, how is any solution that requires enforcement or incentive possible? I'm a firm believer in cultural change. I think the culture changes first, then the laws gradually change. The example I always give is
Yeah.
when the majority of the country was against gay marriage, guess what? Barack Obama was against gay marriage. As soon as it went to 51% in favor, 49% not in favor, all of a sudden he endorsed gay marriage and they got some stuff done. So the culture, the the LGBTQRS, they had to win the culture war to change the hearts and minds of the general public, and then changing the laws became easier. The civil rights movement, they had to change the hearts and minds. It was a grassroots on the ground effort of a culture war for the hearts and minds of America. And once they, won enough people over to their way of thinking with all their protests and sit-ins and all of that stuff, and people actually seeing people getting dogs sicked on them and getting hosed down, they changed the minds of people. And then once they change the minds of the people, the legislation follows. So changing the hearts and minds of people normally happens first, then the legislation normally follows. It's very rare that you will see 70% of the country being in favor of one thing and then the government just say, forget what y'all want. We bossing up and doing this thing, because our elected officials, they operate based off getting voted in. They're not going to die on a hill if 70% of the people are against it. or at least 70% of the people that they need to vote for them are against it. So that's why the culture warriors matter. The culture war matters. A silent Lamont with a super chat says, "Why does being a silent go? You almost made me say something horrible to you in front of a pastor. Joe Brooks, your camera is not showing. Something is going on with your camera. You faded to black
Yeah.
over
I
there.
can't. I'm getting on my phone.
Okay, yeah. Do what you got to do. We might wrap it up
There we go.
real. We might wrap it up really soon. We got one person coming in for question mail. You can punch and get out and go ahead and ask a
Yeah, this
question.
is one question real quick and everything. I want to know from his point of view and everything because I might have alluded earlier about women or the gatekeepers of sex, men are gatekeepers of some commitment and everything. But we all know that women recycle the same small percentage of men, 30%. They go to the 70% to be their cleanup guys and stuff. And yes, I think Dr. Dunder just told himself it's only technically 16, which I think it's smaller than that. That or the dudes that ain't shit, pumping and dumping and impregnating females, not taking care of their kids. And
I think we
the
got
other
you.
percent, that 30% are, despite what happened in their relationship, they still want to be there for their kids and they're using us as pawns and stuff. But also the same percent that's like you said, 54% of men are childish, probably over 30, no kids. Like I said, we got females now these days that's trying to shame the large percentage of men that has no kids to now we should deal with them, be stepfathers and stuff because that'll make you high value in a way. I mean, what do you say about females like that and everything? Because dudes are saying no, we don't want to be cleanup guys no more. You're a mess. Like we gave y'all chances. Y'all keep going to 70% until the 30% to be cleanup guys.
I
I
was
mean,
led to believe that you had a question.
yeah, that was the question. I want to know what was his point of view. That's I'm sorry, it's a statement, but yeah, but
Yeah.
what is his point of view? We think about that. Yes,
You want to know his point of view on real quick before we get to that.
that's about it.
Doug says zero. I don't believe Bernard understands that it was the laws that enabled the current cultural behaviors. Yes, I do understand that, but the point that I am trying to make that at once upon a time when I'm hearing some background from I'm gonna mute everybody until I figure out what's going on with the background. What I am saying, and yes, my man Zero in the building, but what I am saying is that once upon a time, the culture was just so to where women were just fine and content with being wives. When they being wives, being stay-at-home wives. When they decided we don't want that anymore, what did they do? They rallied, they fought, they argued, they burned bras in the streets. What I'm saying is it was a culture war before the laws change. But the culture changed, then the laws change, and then now we're in the post-apocalyptic aftermath of all of that. So if you go back to what happened first, it was a cultural movement. It can't be laws changing without a cultural movement. That's what I'm getting at, Doug. I do understand that the laws enable and sustain the new status quo. I get that part. I'm not denying that part, but it's not. I haven't seen a case, and I'll be open if somebody can show me a case where no major cultural movement, no influence, no change of hearts and minds, just boom, kick the door down. This is what we doing. I you know I haven't exactly seen that 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 happen. But we got Zero in the building. You can go ahead and fire away. Well, hold on, Pastor Brooks. I take it you're good
Yeah.
now, right?
Can
Okay,
you
yeah,
hear
we
me?
can hear you fine,
Okay,
and
good.
yeah,
Good. Sorry about that, man. I ran out of power on my other device. Sorry.
no, that's fine. No problem,
Yeah.
no problem.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
go ahead, Zero. You go. Hold on, first Zero. Let me just throw this out there. You didn't sound like you were initially that much in agreement with my idea, within the paradigm of the black church, if they was really about that life of creating families, that yes, indoctrinating young girls before they get out there and get their hot girl summers in. No, start indoctrinating them as children. They're they grow up and they still, they've been sheltered and indoctrinated. They're they're virgins at 17. I mean, at 18. They're virgins at 18, and then also in turn, the single and childless men that we know that are statistically, slightly the majority of black men, that 50 or so percent range. Those are properly vetted men who are productive and can provide and take care of this. And those men, they will show up in droves to get them an indoctrinated 18-year-old virgin if the church was offering that. They would show up at the church and be at the church, because then the church will be offering something that they want. That's very controversial and cringy to a lot of people. But in theory, in principle, there are other factions of of the religion that do essentially do that, and they operate in their own little bubbles, so to speak. In theory and in principle, as far as women, not just what's your general thoughts on that? Just go.
No, I don't disagree with that. How y'all doing?
Yeah, I think you would disagree with that, because that's essentially what you damn near want to re-accomplish by your walk away strategy. But you said you don't disagree with that. Like, go ahead and
Right.
elaborate and just speak on whatever you wanted to speak on.
No, so no, I don't disagree with that. Indoctrination is fine. So the root cause is incentive. So incentive is going to trump all of that. In the only way for an indoctrination to work is you have to keep people away from the incentive. And then it's like, how do you do that? The
Incentive to
only
do
other
what?
option that
Hold
you
on,
have that's
wait. When you say incentive, you're talking about whose incentive and incentive to do what?
the incentive to not participate in family the way it's traditionally been done.
Okay.
So if you don't take away the incentive, then it's always going to trump whatever you're trying to do. So that's why I kept asking, how would an arranged marriage be more viable than walking away? Because both of them are going to require some form of incentive, and you don't have it on the walk away side. No one's going to do that because you're leaving sex on the table. And arranged marriage, no one's going to do that because everyone wants a hot wife. So
that's what the indoctrinated 18-year-old virgins are.
right. But then on the woman side of it, their incentive is, I don't need you because I can get everything else from men collectively. So that is the most
That's why
powerful
you
incentive.
indoctrinate them. That's why you indoctrinate them young.
Right. You can indoctrinate them at any age you want to, and then that incentive is going to trump that indoctrination because they can get everything that you've taught them that they can get from a man, from men collectively. As long as that incentive is out there, you're going to lose more times than you're going to win. So you're going to end up with the same situation. I mean, we all know the failure of Catholic school. They separated the girls and the boys, and they still had, mass failure. All I'm saying is, as long as an incentive is in front of what you're trying to do, you're either going to have to force it to happen through a law or some type of culture that's away from the incentive. This is how, like, Amish people, their culture is away from the incentive. Amish people don't live in a city.
Yeah. That's another flaw in my idea. The people who have effectively executed that, yeah, you're right. They're somewhere shut off from the world.
Yeah, they don't live close to the incentive. That's why when people talk about the Amish and what they're doing, they're like, well, yeah, black people can do the same thing, but it will require you moving away from society. You'd have to have a society outside of the incentive-based society that we live in now. You're going to have to shut off.
All right, go ahead, Joe. Look like you was trying to jump in there.
No, I think we're underestimating people. I think in their heart, I know with my daughters, they did weddings when they were kids. Man, they would get the dolls together and they would do weddings. I think most women in their heart want families. They want to be mothers and they want to be wives. Okay, and so if you indoctrinate is a tough word. If you train them to
I use indoctrinate on purpose. I wanted to make everybody squirm.
I know.
But
what I'm saying is that we're not talking to kids about future. We're not talking to kids about vision. You ask the typical person that grows up in church, you ask them, say, what is a covenant? And they can't tell you. Okay, they don't know the beauty of covenant. They don't even know that they were saved through covenant. What allows you to actually become a Christian is covenant. Okay, and so the beauty of sacrifice, of giving yourself to somebody, what sex even means, as far as how your reproductive organs were designed and what they were meant for, and what God's plan, God's angle towards these things. I think most people ultimately want a family, men and women. I think they ultimately want an intimate relationship, dedicated, committed relationship, ultimately. And that we can cultivate that vision in people if we give them the truth, if we show them what works. Now, and when I teach women or something like that, I immediately say to them, I say, look, now, if you just want experience, if you just want to romp in the hay, then you're not going to like what I say. But if you want to eventually be married, and and you can get married with a kid, but it's harder. Okay, you can have a future with a felony. It's just harder. Okay, and so what we want to give you is that easy yoke. That if you want to be married, then keep yourself. And this is how you relate to a man. These are the things that are important to a man. And talk to the boys. These are things that are important to a woman. Okay, and I believe that your plan would work wonderfully. And teach them about the forces of media and what the media does to you and what the media tries to do and play on you, because there are certain images that are glorified. That man, that 16% is what's glorified. They're not glorifying that other percentage.
Zero,
I
you
think it
got
would
any?
work.
No, yeah.
Bernard.
So I agree. Women do want children and family. So you're taught your whole life to attain that. That's the goal. Then that goal gets weaponized, where it's like, yeah, you want the best man to give you that. So that's how they weaponize the goal. So
Right.
then all women are out here going for the most the top of the food chain guy, and they're taught this by
Hey,
society.
hold on.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. No, I don't know if you heard that, but it was some echo on his end. I muted him up. I think he's taking care of it.
Oh,
But
okay.
go ahead. No, just go ahead.
So you're taught that by society, and then it's reinforced by men because they're all competing with each other to actually be that dude. The biggest the biggest problem is then the incentive comes down and says you can have that family and more, just hold out for the top of the food chain. And this is where the problem starts, right there, where that incentive comes through and says, hey, you want that family, but don't you want the best family? And then again, all the men are in line with it because we're competing with each other because we're not all on the same page. We're competing with each other to be that guy, and we're all making excuses to be that guy. Nobody wants to play second fiddle to anybody. So as far as like solutions go, you can you can solve, but if you can't get the quote unquote good women to line up and go down to their congressman or whoever got elected and draft a law or draft whatever you want and have the women do it, because there's so many good women out here. If you weaponize these good women, you can actually get some type of cultural and legal change, because how culture gets usurped is actually through the women. You usurp culture through the women. That's how hip hop usurped culture, through women. That's how the Nazis usurped culture, through the women. When they were
Okay, wait, that's new on me. How did Nazis in hip hop?
They
Just
were
start with the Nazis. How did the Nazis usurp culture through the
Hitler,
women?
before he took ultimate power, he had a party called the Socialist. It was the Socialist Party. He's basically giving women all the welfare, giving them incentive to be on his team, which in turn made the men be on his team. So how you get to the men, you get to the women. You give the women stuff, and then the men will just bow down. That's how Hitler came to. Like, go back and read. He had his party was called the something Socialist Party, and all he did was give welfare to women in order to get into power. That's how you do it. So
that's already the black community.
Right. So all I'm saying is, if we're gonna solve, we do one or two things. We weaponize the good women that we think are out here, and we have them draft the laws because women influence other women. If other women think something is cool, they're gonna hop on board. They're trend people. We already know this because we have TikTok. You know, you've seen every time a challenge comes out, they all join in. So anyway, you have the good women. They don't have to draft the law. You can draft the law, and then have them go down, submit it. Then the Congress people get on board, and you move it up the chain. If it fails, it fails. However, women are going to get more locomotion on that type of legal change than men are, because we've already tried hundreds of thousands of times over the last 50 years. Now, if the solution requires like only men, then we have to exercise our only option, which counters their nuclear option. Their nuclear option is between their legs. Our nuclear option is in ignoring that. And it doesn't have to be permanent. It has to be long enough for them to recognize that you're not fucking around. And then you can negotiate. Outside of that, but you're just going to have to bow down to whatever incentives that they're getting.
But with marriage rates being so low, can't you say to some degree that men have already weaponized it to some degree?
No. The marriage rates are meaningless as far as like, okay, if you look at any country outside of like America where birth rates are high and they don't have a lot of marriage, they like foreigners will impregnate their wives and concubines and take care of all of them. The marriage rate is insignificant. You just have to be able to take care of your family. That's the goal, taking care of your family.
Would this be now?
I'm sorry?
What country are you talking about now?
Let me see. Some parts of Africa where they have I would say, I wouldn't call it polygamy. They have a wife, and then
No, there are countries in Africa that have polygamy on the books.
Right. I'm generalizing, so I'm not gonna go full polygamy. I'm just gonna say, they'll have a wife, and then they'll have the point is they take care of their families. The women that they impregnate, they take care of them. That's what you need, and their birth rates are high. So places where the birth rate is high and their families stay intact, the men take care of their families. If over here, if we have an incentive that's greater than that, the women are going to run to that incentive. So we need to have an incentive that's greater than that. The only option we can really exercise is and walking away doesn't mean become celibate and sit in your room. If you have to move on to women of other cultures, even, and there's enough men doing that, even that can cause a change in the culture. Even that can cause a real change where then you can weaponize the women that are desperate to have their families and things like that. Then you can weaponize them to go get those laws changed, because making laws is not difficult. You draft it, you go to a congressman or whoever is in your local, your municipality, and you move it up the chain. It's really easy. You can have a lawyer do it. You can you can have the politician do it. Just give them about $10,000.
It's actually quite challenging to do it. We're seeing that happening right now in Washington with the debt ceiling and the shutdown of government and so on and so forth. But I think the big problem, good afternoon, everybody, and good afternoon, Reverend Brooks. I think the big problem that's facing Black America, of which the Black church is a part, is modernity. We simply are not optimized to deal with a 21st century world. Everything that was optimized for us as Black Americans was designed to deal with essentially a mid-20th century issue, racism. We're just not prepared for a 21st century life. And I think that's what all the churn is all about on both sides, Black female, black male. And particularly, like I see my man Theo up here with the passport option and stuff like that. That's not an option for average at best guys. It's just not. He's not an average at best guy. He's well above that. For a guy like him, yeah, that's an option. For an average at best guy, it's just not an option. For an average at best woman, the stuff that they talk about, that you hear about on, Black social media, it's pipe dreaming. The problem is modernity. Most Black people are not able to cope with it. That's the problem. And the reason why, or a big reason why, is because our cultural, political, intellectual leaders were not thinking about what happens when racism ends. Then what? It was all hands on deck for that problem in the 20th century, of which the black church was a major staging area, if you will. I mean, it was literally, the black church was literally like the headquarters of the civil rights movement. So, I mean, we never thought of the day when racism would be over. Then, now what? There are other challenges of a 21st century world: globalization, the information age, cosmopolitanism. You know, we didn't think about that.
Yeah, our problems are majorly economic. I mean, the racism issue. I mean, you can look at the admixture in the United States. I mean, my state alone is, aside from San Diego, the entire state of Minnesota is just mixed people. I mean, you can eye test this shit here. You can get some census stats when they're done within the next year. But we have probably the highest concentration of mixed people in the U.S. So, and that's not saying that mixed people ends racism. What it does suggest, though, is that as far as race is concerned, it's much less important than economics. We have most of the Fortune 100, 500, and 1,000 companies here. No one really cares about race here so much as they care about being able to have a life. And again, that's proven in a lot of different areas. First of all, the financial area, and then even the social area, where all races are basically with each other. I was culture shocked when I moved here.
Well, hold on real quick. Theo in the building, he says, men nuclear option passport, women have weaponized family via divorce court. Good women with a question mark. Yeah, sure. They are everywhere, of course. Sure. Osama Abdu in the building, he says, a brother making 50K is single and lives a frugal lifestyle, can absolutely budget, say, 4K a year to take a few trips a year overseas. Most definitely. Shout out to Osama Abdu. Appreciate all y'all support. Pastor Joe Brooks, what'd you think about the exchange between Zero and Obsidian? What's your thoughts? Oh, you're muted. Let me unmute you. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah.
Now you got it.
Okay. Yeah, I was kind of lost in it. For me, things got a little complicated, got a little complex, and it could be me. You know, I thought that your statement was a real simple one. Okay. And I saw a lot of validity into it. I would use different language as far as indoctrination and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure how that conversation actually touched on what you said. I just got lost. It got really complex for me. And to me, it's real simple. You train your women and your men, your boys, to be men, to be women, and understand not the restrictive nature of their roles, but the responsible nature of their roles. And then they work out those things specifically, okay? Because everybody's different. I mean, you say point guard, who are you talking about? They have point forwards now. You know what I'm saying? And so you work it out based upon what you have access to. So you don't get into restrictive, legalistic roles, okay? But I have to understand as a man, it's my job to provide for my family. Okay, now if something happens, I'm in an accident, and I can't provide it, doesn't mean I'm not a man. It's just one of my primary roles. Okay, and if you start talking about roles of women, you have to include how important the children are, because otherwise it's not going to make sense to them. Somebody needs to raise our kids. Our kids are struggling, and so who's the best person for that? I know some stay-at-home dads who they're best with the kids, and the wife goes out and earns. She has her earning capacity is more. But what I'm saying is, I understand that it's not my wife's role to support my family. It's just a strategic thing that we're doing now because she makes more money and maybe I'm more of a nurturing person. Okay. And so we have to train people up with these roles, with these responsibilities, how to treat a woman, how to treat a man, how to respond to one another. Okay. And that role is given to you by God, man, and that it's part of your service to God, and that Your family is very, very important. Your family, you have to take care of your family. Okay. And so if you just want to be a person out here that has experiences from person to person sexually, then that's your goal, then that's your deal. But we need to let our kids know, especially our young women, is that experience could disqualify you from marriage down the road in the eyes of some people. And so that's an expensive time that when you go to college, and you shouldn't be looking to be wild. You shouldn't be looking, that's outside of the boundaries that you're supposed to be living within. Okay. And so I'm speaking simply from an American standpoint that there's stress on people, there's stress on the family, and the family is taking a hit because of a lot of different things. And we need to address those things. We don't need to wait for somebody to change something. We as the church need to say, man, the church is made up of families. If we don't have families, then we're going to be weak. And we've got to hand this stuff off to another generation who is crying for context as far as their life is concerned. And so I couldn't follow all that other stuff. I just wasn't. I wasn't
got you.
connected.
Well, let's start over. So let's start with the church, right? So
Yeah.
everything you said, agreed. Just like before, we agree. Like before, you said women do want children and family. Okay, I agree.
Yeah.
As far as like the teachings of the church and how it can foster, families to stay together, agreed.
Yeah.
The only point of contention I made was, how do you overcome the incentive? Because the incentive is the root cause. How does the church overcome that incentive that tells women, you have all the legal power and protection and a fiduciary advantage at this point, you can do better, why not do better?
Okay, but what's your definition of better? I'm sorry.
It doesn't matter. The incentive is you can do better. Doesn't matter what better is. Better could be a better man. Better could be a richer man, a better looking man, a taller man. It doesn't matter. The incentive is you can do better.
Yeah.
So do
But
better.
See, I think they have to understand what choice is about. Okay. I can't make my choices on what on could be. Okay. If somebody doesn't do it for me, then that's a whole nother thing. If I don't want to spend my life with you, but I'm doing it because I don't see nobody else, that's a whole different thing.
Again,
Okay?
agreed.
But
that's
but
the
see,
problem.
there's the whole no, but see, with the whole concept of focus and commitment is that there's choices, and so I make a commitment in the face of the fact that somebody may roll along better, but I make a commitment because I can't build without a commitment. See, the whole concept of covenant is that when I enter into a covenant with you, okay, I was attracted to you because of what you did for me. But when I go in covenant, I shift, and my covenant is based on my character, okay. And so I'm gonna keep covenant not because you're pretty, but because I'm faithful, because I have good character. I'm a good person. I'm a man of my word. And so commitment cuts off options. And so I don't live my life thinking optionally. I live my life thinking vision, legacy, and I'm trying to build. We're trying to build. So I can't be stupid if we're trying to build. I can't tear down what we're building because a pretty face comes along. Okay. And so there's always going to be what you're calling incentives, I'm calling temptation. Okay. There's always going to be the grass is always greener on the other side. Something always going to look different. Okay. But the whole idea of commitment is that there's choices. Okay. And I'm telling you that through covenant, this thing is settled. I'm not looking at any other choices. You and I are going to make a life together. And you don't have to worry about who comes along. I shouldn't have to worry about who comes along because the contextual framework of our relationship is covenant. And that's what covenant is about. That's how you become a Christian, is through covenant.
Now,
Does that make sense?
I'm not disagreeing with you about how that works.
Okay.
And also, as far as like the males, men statistically do not bail out of their marriages over temptation or incentive because for the most part, we all know the stats. Men don't need women's money or anything like that. So we don't make those type of decisions. Society doesn't give us
a loaded gun and say, hey, you can do better than this woman. We're going to give you all this stuff so that you can do better than this woman. It's actually on the other side. Society gives women a gun and says, you can do better than this man. Here's all of this stuff so that you can do better than this man. That's where the incentive is on the other
just
side.
Real quick.
So where are the divorce rates actually occurring, Zero, in Black America? And when I say, what I mean by that is by income level. So at the 100,000 and above level, at the $75,000 level, at the $50,000 level, and so on. Where are the majority of the divorces, breakups, or just no marriages at all? Where are they taking place?
Poor people, because they're the most. They're the most in number. The higher you go up in income, the less people there are to divorce in the first place.
But still fewer people, but still fewer divorces.
Yes, and again, right, fewer divorces because there are fewer people.
But no,
because percentages though.
No, it's because they have something. They have some skin in the game. So when you're talking about the government arming women, well, I know this is going to sound harsh, but for the guys, and there's been a lot written about this by scholars, the guys that are average at best guys just don't have enough to offer women today the way that the average at best guys of yesteryear did. And that's
they actually have the same thing.
No, they don't. Actually, no, they don't. And here's how we know that's true. Back in 1961, the average at best brother in Black America could get out of high school. Matter of fact, you didn't even have to have a high school diploma. You could go in the Army with a GED and get your GED in the Army. Come out, get a factory or union or city job, good bennies, get a pension, go in a union, buy a home, buy at least one car, if not several, support a housewife, put kids through college, and take vacation. Not possible now for the average at best guy today in Black America. Not possible.
So because he can't provide a certain lifestyle, women should abandon their biological imperative to be a part of a family?
Absolutely not. Black women are having children on their own.
Is that a family?
But if you sit down,
just getting knocked up.
What's happening?
Yeah, I think there's a feminist piece here and a redefinition that they're trying to, how can I say it, qualify something that's less than normal. Okay, and that's why I keep saying put the kids first. There's a book called Them Before Us, and they address this. There's another book called The Boy Crisis, and they address this thing is that women should make decisions based on what's best for children. See, because they've been told that they can raise people without men, and we are really paying for that. And so I wouldn't talk about the incentive. I talk about the lie. There's been a lie that a half family is a whole family, and in an effort to make everybody feel okay. Okay, but no, a one-parent household, and I was a single dad for 8 years. But a one-parent household is not a whole household, okay? And women, especially little girls, need their dads. But we've been taught that, and there are women who do great at raising families. But what I'm saying is you are operating from a deficit if you have a kid and no man, just because you may have the money to support them. Okay, that kid not only needs that dad, but they have a right to that dad. And this whole thing has been part of this attack against the family, man. And we've turned women against men, men against women, and we need each other. You can't do family without both of you. And so so that's what I'm saying is that this thing is a lie, man. And if we're talking incentives, most women I know, and I know a lot of them, even single moms, they would rather be married. Okay, they would rather be in a loving relationship. They long for a loving relationship with a man. They're not sitting there talking about, I can do this by myself. They may say that on the surface, or they may say that because they've been indoctrinated. But at the heart of the thing, most women I know are not happy doing it alone. It's hard. I don't know if you guys
What
have ever
steps
been
are
a
they
single parent.
taking to make that happen?
Make what happen?
Their relationships, the things that they want. What steps are they taking to make that happen above whatever it is they're unhappy about? Like, how are they trying to get a man?
Most women I know are self-sabotaging. Okay, they are doing things that actually cause that dream to be more distant. Okay, and that's where the teaching aspect. That's where it's like, say I wrote a book, and I told women in there that you have the power of sex, and I talked about the power of virginity, which seemed real impractical to people. And so this girl told me, she says, "But Pastor, okay, if I don't have sex with a guy, he's gonna go have sex with somebody else, and I won't have him." I said, "Did you have sex with him?" She said, "Yeah." I said, "Do you have him?" And she said, "No." I said, "That doesn't work. Okay, having sex with a man doesn't help you get him and keep him. And if anything, it helps you lose him, because now he's had that experience that you gave him permission to have. Okay, and so the mystery is gone. All that stuff is gone, and so I think women actually self-sabotage with it. The women I know at their heart are not looking to, to just, I can do without a man. Okay, they have that attitude, but a lot of that is just trying to protect their heart, trying to make everybody feel like, well, I am happy. Okay, but if a guy comes along, man, they fall for, I just think there's a lot of illusions that's going on, and if we get down to the truth, women are happiest in marriage. Okay. And yeah, go on.
So there's a large group of men that want the same thing that these women that you said want. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they're vocal. Okay. Not only are they vocal, but they're statistically visible. So this is why when you said that you know these women that want, family and togetherness, and I'm saying, what steps are they taking to get the man that they want?
Well, they're online, they're in church, they're in gyms, they're all over there, and they're looking. Women want to be married, man.
Okay.
Did I mess up?
Oh no, no,
you can't mess up. You're a grown man.
No, but you understand what I'm saying. No, I just
no,
I believe
I
believe we're judging each other. I believe we're hard on each other. I've seen women miss men that would have been amazing mates, but they didn't fit the image. They didn't wear a tie every day. They didn't, but they were great guys, man, who would have made amazing partners.
And we can say the same thing on the opposite end as well. Let's take Stacey Abrams and her sister. She comes from a devout Christian family. Her father was a pastor.
Okay.
And they were very smart ladies. Yeah. And many guys passed them over. Her sister is a federal judge appointed by President Barack Obama, and she married a convict.
Wow.
It's just true.
Yeah,
it's true.
Is she happy?
I don't know. I have no idea. But I'm just making the point. But what I'm making the point is that there are quite a few ladies of devout Christian background in Black America that aren't number one with a bullet with the fellas either. We just don't talk about it.
They aren't what? I'm sorry, I missed that.
There are quite a few ladies in Black women that are churched or come from churched backgrounds who are not number one with a bullet with the fellas either. We just don't talk about it.
Oh yeah, well there's a lot of aspects
Stacey Abrams
with attraction. Attraction is a big deal.
Stacey Abrams, Obsidian. Come on. All right.
It's the truth.
No, but I don't know why that's important. I mean, we know how men are. All right, and we know that a man is not going to look at Stacey Abrams and say, okay, well, I mean, she's very unattractive, but she say, oh, well, she got a good education and a good career. Ooh, yeah, like men don't select women like that. We understand that.
And women should.
Women should what?
Women should do that.
Are you? You saying women should do that?
Yes, in
Women
other
do.
words,
No,
women should select men based on that criteria as well.
No, a lot of women do that.
But evidently they don't, because we can see that in Black America. The Reverend just got finished mentioning it. He just said it. He said there were a lot of
women do. Some women. I'm not saying what they should do, but if they're if they have an interest in being provided for, yeah, I think it makes sense if that's what they want. If they put a high premium on family and a man providing and doing the things that traditionally that a man is supposed to do, then they should put a higher premium on his ability to do that than what they should his looks.
Well, so, apparently, yeah. well, we can. Well, I think the good Reverend will back me up on this. I think that the verdict is in. There are many more Black women in the Black church than Black men. Many more Black women choosing to go it alone than Black men. We have reams of anecdotal evidence right on social media itself with Black women to make it very clear. You got to have the whole package, or I'm not interested. I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm just saying that's what it is.
Right.
And I think that's one of the
I think the outcomes. I think if we're looking at outcomes, we can say that it's wrong based off outcomes. Just looking at the outcomes,
the outcomes are the only thing that matter.
The outcomes are the only thing that matter. So if the outcomes are the only thing that matter, we can say that it's wrong. I do want to circle back to something me and Obsidian was talking about when I said the average man today, essentially, in many ways, he does offer similar to what what men did before. Because if you look at what men made then, adjusted for inflation, is really the same thing. Now, understand the economy was different. You could afford more on that 40,000 back then. I understand that. I completely get that. But if the reason the average guy is economically unattractive, to use the term from that article, if the reason he's economically unattractive is because women have came up and they could make close to that, so now that guy who still with that average money can put a roof over the head, food on the table, running water and electricity, and truth be told, that's really what the average guy was providing back then. When they talk about a man being able to provide, they were talking about a guy who can provide that roof over the head, food on the table, running water, electricity. They weren't talking about a lifestyle back then. So the average man today, the average man today can still provide the basic stuff that an average man could provide back then. The only difference is a woman can provide that for herself. So she said, hey, if I can do that for myself, I'm only going to value being in a structured family situation if a lifestyle comes with it. So I don't think modern men can be charged up the way that you could charge up modern women, because the modern man is still going to work, has a job, making, I guess, the average income adjusted for inflation, and that average income is enough to put a roof over her head, food, water, running water, electricity.
But here's the problem, Bernard.
So she's abandoned the post, not the man.
Hold on. Here's the problem. Right. Here's the problem. Number one, the average best brother back then just wasn't providing the basics. Remember what I said. He had a job with good bennies. He had a pension retirement that she gets if he keels over, right? He is in it. More than likely, he didn't have pensions. Pardon?
Average man has pensions.
Now today they don't. Not the average brother today doesn't have pensions like that. That's not true.
If you're working a job, you can get that set up like that.
No, the trust. I've been in the union. Right. I know about the pension life. 401k ain't the same, man.
Okay.
Okay. So there's that. Plus the fact that you went on vacation. That's not basic.
Lifestyle.
That's lifestyle. But guys back then were able to provide that. Kids paid for school. That's not basic. College ain't basic. By definition, college is not basic education. By definition, it's secondary education. You were able to.
Everybody was going to college back then,
and
you didn't have to pay for everybody to go to college, especially
Generation X. Generation X, if I'm not mistaken, remains the most educated cohort of Black Americans to date, and we were the descendants of baby boomers that we're basically talking about, circa 1961. Okay, so yeah, if you was an average at best guy in Motown and you working at Ford, GM, Chrysler, something like that, you could buy a house, you could support a housewife who worked a de facto part-time job, you could put your kids through college, you went on vacation every year with the family, and you had at least one, if not several cars simultaneously. And some brothers had a boat. Some brothers even had a little boat in the driveway that they go out and fish on and stuff like that. The average, at best, brother today simply can't provide that. But even if he could, as you rightly pointed out, Bernard, a lot of black women today can earn close to that. There's a smaller percentage of sisters, approximately 26%, who can earn on par or better than the average brother. And of course, we got, barely 10% of sisters today who just completely blow those guys out the water in earnings. So yeah, even accepting your argument, Bernard, of the guy today can still offer the basics that the guy back then did. Yeah, it's basics that are like a half a century old, man.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Man, you gotta be able to put her. You gotta keep her high heels with red bottoms and Gucci bags and stuff in order for better outcomes for black children. We need we need to be able to afford Gucci bags and red bottoms if we want to see a better outcomes for black people.
And I think that's a part of the materialism and stuff, Bernard, that's there tonight right now. I really think we need to rethink some things, and I really challenge women on those things. Like even the word settle. How do you settle on a human being? You know what I'm saying? It's like
more specifically, how do you settle for the man that you actually qualify for? She's average, he's average. That's the guy you qualify for. What you mean you settle? He's not the guy you're settling for. He's the guy who's suitable for her where she's at. That's
but on one hand, you've been sold this vision, and you're being sold this Disney stuff about what. See, the thing that I ask people is what do you want? See, most people don't know what they want, and they say, well, I want a man with this. Okay. Now, put your list down and ask yourself, can I have all those things and still be unhappy? Okay, because most people just want to be happy. And so once you look at your list and realize that you can have all that and not be happy, okay, now let's redo your list. Okay, because if I redo my list on what will actually make me happy, okay, then I rethink it and I get past that surface stuff, and I get down to somebody that I'm attracted to. Let's assume both people are attractive. Okay. I want somebody I'm attracted to. I don't tell people to marry somebody they're not attracted to, okay? But I want us to be good in each other's presence. I want us to have the same values. I want us to be able to plan together, because what we're not looking at the transformational aspect of marriage. And I don't know any stats on this, but do men make more married than they do single? Because I'm a much better provider. I'm a much better producer as a married man than I was as a single man, because I wasn't motivated. I didn't have a family. I didn't need to leave a legacy or anything like this. And so I believe there's a transformational aspect of being in love and married and having a vision and looking to the future where, man, we both can become better people. Who are you becoming in your marriage? I think we're looking at marriage like you may look at a business deal or something, and not really counting on I'm with this person every day that does it for me. You understand what I'm saying? The romance part of it, the dream part of it. Nobody's talking about any dreams. Okay. My goal was always that my wife wouldn't have to work. And I did that. Okay. But it was a goal, it was a family goal. For me, I didn't need much. I'm a simple guy. I don't need a whole lot of stuff. But man, when I think about providing for my family, now I'm motivated. Now I'm ready to earn a lot more money, because I realize that's the medium of exchange. But I don't look at the ceiling on what she makes and what I make and say, okay, that's what can I do? I don't look at a woman's income as part of my vision, because I'm gonna give her the option to raise the kids or to do what she wants to do. And she can work. If that's her heart, if that's her vision, if that's her calling. I'm not trying to restrict anybody to a role, but it's my job to make that happen.
All right, Theo up in the building says Obsidian bringing up facts and structural arguments. Deal with it. Said it to number 16. I don't know what you in number 16 got going on down there. Says a Wiggle Man says facts preach Rev. Shout out to you. Spartacus Jackson says, to quote Kevin Samuels, and this addresses the current problem. Modern average women don't want or desire average men. Please address this statement. I think I addressed that just recently. Says we are living in hypergamy currently. Yeah. So
It's a new word for me.
yeah, that just I sometimes don't even know the full working definition of that, but it's essentially just talking about how women always want the better deal. I mean, they should be trying to get the most the best possible mate that they could find. I think that's essentially what that means, if I understand it right. But what he's talking about there, so with the hypergamy, the point that I've always made is back when women wasn't working like they working now, when women made significantly less than men, a man working a job and able to just provide a roof over the head, running water, electricity, food on the table, that was enough to scratch her hypergamous itch. If she can essentially provide that for herself, now in order to scratch her hypergamous itch, now it goes back to the stuff that Obsidian was talking about. So it's not that's why I say it's not that men have just fell down on the job. It's just that we've created a society, a culture where, a woman can make just as much as a man working in some air-conditioned cubicle, doing basic work, stapling papers and sending emails. She can make enough to provide everything that a man provided 50, 60 years ago. So now it ain't no men on her level or good enough for her. That's not men's fault. That's not men. The only thing that's men's fault is that they bent over and yielded to all the women's political and cultural demands and gave them what they want, and now women got what they want, and now men are economically unattractive. So if men just leveled up and start making more money, then it will create another wage gap, and then women will start back burning bras in the street to make more to make again what men are now making, and then it will start the cycle over again. So that's why I'm like, this is nonsense.
And another issue, real quick, is that what the Reverend was talking about, where it's a good thing to have dreams and things like that. However, when your dreams get weaponized to the degree where, like you said, your wife gives you motivation to be like a better person, that's probably that's not really a good thing if your self-ID depends on the person that you're with. I mean, you're defining your manhood, your self-respect, your self-identity through a woman. That is, I don't even, what part of that is I guess manhood.
It's not a definition, man. It's a motivation. Okay. I've got kids. I want to provide for them. Okay. And maybe I should have been self-motivated to be my best as a single man, but I just wasn't. And you got prisons of single guys. You got prisons full of single guys. Guys are better in families. Okay. Guys are the fact that I have a responsibility, that people look to me, the fact that I'm a pastor and people look to me to live a certain kind of life has put pressure on me to live a good life and not give them a chapter in our relationship where they have to explain away my foolishness and my stupidity. Okay, we are connected, and what we do has an effect on other people. I asked the church full of women. I had about 1,500 people in the service that day, and I asked the women. I said honestly, because I address these things, I deal with this stuff. I try to. One of my roles in life is to destroy illusions, okay, because they don't work. And so I asked them, how many of you women who work are tired? Okay, all of them raised their hand. I said, how many of you, if you had the option to not get up and go to work every day, how many of you would take it? What it boiled down, there was only one woman in that whole group who, if she didn't have to work, would still work. Okay,
I can agree with that.
Okay, your incentive to be a better man was a woman. Now, so on the flip side, this is what I'm talking about when I talk about the incentive part.
Mm-hmm.
The women have a much stronger incentive. They have the incentive of benefiting from all men collectively, while at the same time searching for the king of the hill.
How do they benefit from all men?
I don't get that. Yeah, I don't get that.
Okay, for example, if any American company, right, if they have over 25 employees, they have to hire women. They have to, or else face sexual discrimination. That's why companies have to fill seats with women because of the sexual discrimination laws. I don't want to go all the way into that, but this is what I mean by incentives. So if they're given positions which are basically welfare positions, I had there was a lot of women at the last company I worked for that had welfare positions.
Right.
If they get incentives like that, then the problem is overcoming those incentives. So if your incentive is a woman and her incentive is not you, how do you overcome that?
Oh, that's easy. That's real easy. And then I'd like to address Spartacus's previous remark. So we're looking at unforeseen factors, right? We're dealing with one right now, the pandemic. The pandemic has had a massive impact on women's employment, known as the pink collar professions, and with Black women in particular. And I've talked about this before, Bernard. Most Black women are occupied or have occupations that rely on retail, healthcare, or education. Now, healthcare is pretty much pandemic proof for the obvious reason, but education and retail have been ravaged by the pandemic, and we still got at least another year to go because we're in the grips of the Delta variant as we speak, heading into this fall season. So it ain't over yet. So a lot of women are being impacted by this, the distance learning piece, the distance, remote work, and all those sorts of things have taken a major hit with all this stuff. A lot of these jobs aren't coming back. So they can make them as this, discrimination law proof as they want. Discrimination laws don't mean anything when there's no economic engine to drive those make work welfare state type jobs to begin with, man.
Wow. All right.
And as for the other piece about the average at best Black woman not desiring the average at best Black man, how do we explain that? Very simple. We could take it all the way back to what made Kevin famous, the original average at best. Here we got a sister, average at best looks, but makes 10% money. She makes 10%, top 10% money earner money. So yes, looks wise, she would be compatible with an average at best brother. But why should she get with an average at best brother when she makes 2 to 3 times what he makes? Now, yes, she wants to get with the high post brother, but they're not going to check for her. So what did that end up putting her in? Out in the cold in terms of a mate. Because she's higher than what the average at best brother can do, but she's lower than what the high post brothers desire. So that puts her out in the cold.
But do you see? And I'm agreeing with you. I haven't done studies on this, but do you see the problem with that thinking? Is that you're placing a value on people based on very surface components. You understand what I'm saying? I mean, what about the woman that just does it for you? I mean, it's like, wow. I mean, have any of you guys ever fell in love? Because it's like love. I define love as the willingness to benefit another at your own expense. Okay, and it's almost like people try to get in relationships that don't cost them anything. It's like, okay, how much you make? Okay, yeah, that serves me. The fact that you make a lot of money serves me. What happens when that person's in a car accident? What happens to the covenant when you in one day went from high value to less than average? Okay, and I think those are some of the dynamics that we're dealing with. It's almost like we suffered so long in poverty that now everything is financial, or everything that we talk about as far as value. Man, value can change so quick. You can be the man this year and not be known about next year. And so, what keeps the family together? Where is the concept? And I keep using the word covenant, and I don't think people even understand that word anymore.
Shout out to who else we got in here? E. Taylor, thank you for that super chat. Number 16, Theo. Okay, I got a little back and forth going on.
Mm-hmm.
In order to keep intact families, you need to make what 15% or less than what all men do. One day it's women should work with men who are similar earners, and the next high value man or bust. Thank you for the super chat. Appreciate that. Who else we had in here? Theo, my bad, Theo. I think I see you sent another one. I just can't find it. Shoot. Okay. My bad. Okay, we almost at the 3-hour mark. So we about to wrap it. Zero, are you laughing?
Yeah, well, okay. So I was thinking,
I keep hearing like
no, because I'm like, love is great, right? And he's like, if you find a woman that does it for you, that's super. But we keep going back to, you can find a woman that does it for you, but then, okay, she does it for you. Now she has all the incentive in the world to not reciprocate. That's the problem.
Yeah.
The fundamental problem is not, it's not a male problem. This isn't a male problem. This is not a man abandoning relationship problem. Men want the relationship. This is why the manosphere exists in the first place, because men are here having a conversation about all of these problems with relationships. Men actually want the relationships. This is why the space exists.
Mm-hmm.
So this is not men bailing. This is women bailing. So you can find the woman that does it for you and you love her and all the rest of it. But what is her incentive? You know, she's getting all the incentive from the state to not participate. That is the crux of the problem. Everything else we don't disagree with.
Not just the state. Even if she's not, well, you would probably argue that even if she's working, she's still getting it from the state because you call it welfare jobs. So either she can get incentive from the state through welfare, or she can have the incentive of being able to, like I said, make just enough money to get by in an air-conditioned cubicle, working in an air-conditioned cubicle, and she's making enough to provide for herself.
Right.
She got it. So she has the opportunity to be free, and I mean. So I get what you're saying, but I don't think men have abandoned the post. The guy making enough money to put a roof over, to provide for himself, roof over his head, running water, electricity, food on the table. He's not turning away some woman, coming up in there to to cook, clean, and suck his. We had a clean show today. It's been pastors on the show. I ain't gonna cuss. But
can I ask you something, Bernard?
He's not turning away a woman that's coming to serve him. So I don't.
You're not even turning away Keisha.
Yeah, the man ain't turning away nothing. I think it is.
Are these guys? There's 54% of guys that you say are being turned down or being passed over, and I believe that to be true. Are they also having sex, and with who?
Well, I didn't say they was being turned down. Well, yeah, some of them are having sex, yeah. But so yeah, and
they're having sex with people who don't want to marry them.
And I think it's a lot of layers to that. But
that's probably the discussion we need to have.
Yeah, that is a point in there that there's a percentage of men that do want families, and in the right circumstances they would happily they would happily go that route.
Right.
Then there's a percentage that don't, and they're fine with things just the way that it is. So it's a lot of layers and variables to that. Alan Roger Curry in the building says, just tuned in. Did anyone actually promote the idea of pre-arranged marriages? No, I threw out a controversial idea that basically the black church, if they really about that life and families and everything, they need to be indoctrinating the hell out of young girls and if they want men in the church, and there's a percentage of childless men in 54%, he talked about like 54% of men single and childless. Many of them do want families. I think the church, I think the church should get in the business if they really about that life. Yeah, they should
I
get in the
agree with
business of
you.
creating families and properly vetted men who properly vetted men who are in that church. And they're in the church. They want wives, and I controversially said, well indoctrinated, be able to provide for them, well indoctrinated 18-year-old virgins, and accept age gap dating, which you are in favor of. I think you married a 29-year-old when you was 57. Support age gap dating, yeah, put them together. Put them together. Start the families. It'll be better for Black women and Black children. They'll be provided
Wow.
for. They'll have more
Wow.
provision and protection and everything, and they'll be indoctrinated by the church, and they'll indoctrinate the kids, and kids grow up and do the same. I'm just saying the church should just get in the indoctrination game. I mean, they got
Yeah.
people that will come and give 10% of their money. They can indoctrinate people into family structure. Just got to indoctrinate the kids, get them while they're young. Do what the damn the Mormons do if they really about that life and family creation. That was essentially my argument that I threw out there with two pastors
Good.
on the
That's
panels.
good.
They agree with some of it, but I worded it so controversially they got a
Well,
little cringy.
I agree that we should prepare people for life, period, man. That we should tell them what's up. A lot of people don't know, and that includes
Yeah, this
family
wasn't
and marriage
controversial.
and stuff. You know,
What'd you say, Zero?
This wasn't controversial. Good. Controversial would have like if we just started bringing up marrying chicks that are too old to have viable healthy pregnancies. That would have been controversial. We didn't even go there. So
No.
Mm,
No.
yeah.
That's not an
I've got
option.
to cut out. Say, Bernard, you
Yeah,
ready?
we about to get out of here.
I'm gonna start a
Oh,
thing called Man Church.
okay.
Yeah, I'm starting a thing called Man Church. My goal is the first Sunday in November, November 7th, on Facebook, YouTube, all of the usual suspects. And so, and it's aimed at reaching
Oh,
in.
real quick, do you have a link? Do you have a link that you can
No, I don't have a link for that.
do you
And
got
I don't
any
know
link
even how
of
to do that.
anything I can drop if somebody want to go check you out?
StonesChurch.com is
Where?
where you find our church. StonesChurch.com. Stones
I just
Church, one word.com.
hold on. I'll
Okay.
type it in and then I'll get
Yeah,
I'll
I'm
make the
sorry,
link.
man. I wasn't up on the, like the one brother said. I wasn't modern. I got to get modernized, and so I got people that do this stuff for me. So next time, if there is such a time, I'll have a link. But yeah, that would be in November. You can see my services now, StonesChurch.com, or on Facebook, Stones Church Facebook page.
Is this you? It
And
look like they on the website. I think they just baptized a girl in a swimming pool or something. Is that
may have. I haven't been there in a while.
you
But
haven't been there? Oh yeah, no,
StonesChurch.com.
I see you. I see you. I see you. This is
Okay,
you. Oh
cool,
dang, this is a
cool,
nice
cool.
website. It's a
Okay,
nice
thank you.
website.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
it looked pretty cool. Look pretty cool.
Yeah,
All right,
but
I'm about
I'm
to drop the
really
link
happy
to
to
that.
be on with you guys and to be challenged by what challenges you and help you walk through it. I'm 68, so I'm kind of a father in this thing. And so, man, any way I can ever help anybody or answer any questions, just hit me up, okay?
All right.
Thank you so much, Bernard, for
Thanks
this
for coming
opportunity.
on through.
Thank
Yep,
you.
Yep,
absolutely. Thank you.
God
Thank
bless
you.
you,
All
man.
right. I'm gonna read some they getting on me saying I'm not reading super chats. So I'm try to go back and see what I missed. All right. Well, this one probably still up. But Xander with a Z says modern women will have children, then put men on child support as a ghetto retirement program, then go to yeah, go to church and find a simp. Yeah, it's kind of okay, but the thing is, if the church is occupied freaking 70-80% women, it's even harder to find that simp at church. But if they want men in church, they need to do what I suggested. Just start indoctrinating them young. anyway, Xander with a Z in here. He says it's more profitable well, no, shout out to KD. Shout out to KD with a $20 super chat. Never leave a comment, but always drop $20 on me. I do appreciate that, brother. He says it's more, well, no, Xander with the Z says it's more profitable for women to get married than get divorced and leave with cash and prizes. Shout out to you. Spartacus Jackson says, Pastor actually believes that chivalry is respected and desired amongst the modern women today. We are in 2021. Men didn't destroy chivalry. I agree 100%. Chivalry is dead, and women were the murderers. Yes, absolutely. Theo in the building says number. So that's you and number 16's debate. I'm not. I don't know what y'all got going on. E.
And number
Taylor.
16 never really addressed Theo's points. He responded, but he never really actually addressed them.
Real quick, I'll let you elaborate on what you think he did or didn't do, because I don't even fully understand what they were going at it about, because it's kind of jumbled up. But to quote Kevin Samuels, and this addresses the current problem: modern average women don't want or desire average men. Please address his statement. Okay, I did read that one. Okay, I'm caught up. I think I read most of them. Yeah, okay, I got him. I caught him. I got him. So yeah, okay. I guess we could touch on that before we get out of here, but we passed the limit right now, so we can get up out of here relatively soon. What was it? It was something else. Well, go ahead. What was their issue? What was they talking about?
Well, I mean, they were essentially arguing over what I was saying earlier about, the average at best guy. And I noticed it's interesting. We talk about the modern woman, which is fair. There are problems and challenges that the modern average at best sister faces. The number one challenge that she faces is that she is in a global competition for desirable mates. She's no longer just competing against her fellow average at best sisters. She's competing against much more higher above average sisters, different age ranges. This is particularly acute the older she personally is. So if a woman is in her latter 30s or 40s and beyond, then she's not only competing with Black women parallel to herself in age, she's also competing against Black women younger than them. She's also obviously competing against, women of other cultures and backgrounds and races. And all of this is playing itself out writ large on the Jumbotron, Black social media, on a 24/7 hour loop. So, she sees what the men she's interested in are interested in. And, she has to, make a pretty ruthless assessment as to whether she measures up. And for a number of Black women, we know that they don't. And so they resort to other, tactics to try to essentially, your mama Black men back into, back onto the, plantation, so to speak, or back onto the reservation. And that time has passed. They may have the education, they may have the money, but they don't have the looks in a BBL era where other women of other races are taking advantage of those medically, those cosmetically, surgically advanced methods.
And the gym.
The gym as well. That's another major development. Back in 1961, you didn't have the kind of fitness you have today.
Yeah, you didn't have squat team. Squat team is real.
So that's all of that. All of that is what I'm talking about here. And that is putting tremendous pressure on average at best sisters who may indeed earn, well above what the average at best sister earns financially, and may very well be more educated than the average at best sister, that meaning that she's exceeding what the average at best brother, her assortated mating equal, could do. But those have null effects for the kind of men that she wants. And she's seeing all this on the Jumbotron. And that's a tremendous pressure on a lot of those sisters, no doubt about it. So both sides, have problems with modernity, with a 21st century world, where being average at best just doesn't cut it anymore. That's the challenge. And I said earlier, our cultural, political, intellectual leaders, they just didn't think about this time. They were still stuck fighting the last war, so to speak, which is the 20th century. I was talking earlier offline about a brother, y'all might have heard of him, I'm kind of embarrassed to admit that he's a homeboy. His name is Ibram X. Kendi. He's a black academic, you know, and to me, he's a throwback to the heydays of the Afrocentric era of the early 1990s. You know, that type of sentiment of black people still addressing life as if we're at some point in the 20th century is a very strong thing. You know, and we really don't have any meaningful tools to navigate a 21st century world on both sides, black male and black female. That's the real problem. All this churn on, you know, all these various issues. The black church is no disrespect to your previous guests, but the black church is I mean, just completely doesn't have a clue as to how to deal with any of this stuff. I mean,
and none of the female constituents in that church are on squat team. Squat team is real. All you have to do is go to any gym that has, you know, up-to-date equipment, like, you know, your Lifetimes, your Princeton clubs or whatever in your cities, in your metro area, and you will see squat team in action. We like several generations into some of the hottest mixed women on the planet, and they're all friendly. There's like, you know, Blasian girls with flojo bodies because they're on team squat. Like they're doing it, and they can cook. Not only can they cook, but they cook healthy.
right,
You know, stir fry with no grease.
right.
You know, chicken. They'll never even, you know, feed you pork. Also, they don't know all of the words to the Lil Wayne album. They have no idea who the fuck he is. Team squat is real.
It sounds like you talk. I thought you was talking about American women. They don't know who Lil Wayne is. You talking about some women over?
No, these are American, culturally raised Blasian chicks that live in different areas of whatever state you're in. Like we have an area called St. Charles, where there's a bunch of them. That
they know who Lil Wayne is. They probably can't spit a verse, but they know who he is.
I mean, I understand exactly where Zero is going, and Zero does make a point. You know, for the men that a lot of black women have a revealed preference for, the question is, who is the competition? A lot of black women are very vehement about the idea that they don't have to compete for men. That's just not the reality. Yep. I know a lot of black women don't like to hear it, but that's just not the truth. Female competition for desirable mates is fierce. And, you know, a lot of black women just aren't, you know, competitive. That's just the plain truth. In an increasingly globalized mating market that is fueled by social media. I mean, you know, that's a real challenge for a lot of black women who think that they can try to, you know, work their way around it by some combination of their own earnings, education, accomplishments, and a dollop of, you know, fictive racial kinship. Your mama black. That's not going to work in the 21st century.
No,
it's not.
And they can't pull that whole European beauty standard card anymore. Anyway,
that's not going to work. That's not going to work either. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, the real question becomes: are black women who find themselves in that situation, are they willing to do what's required to meaningfully compete? That's really what it comes down to. Squat,
all the excuses
eating clean,
are gone.
plant-based, Dr. Miami, some combination thereof. That's what it comes down to. If you're a woman,
yeah, we got bad bitch surgery.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to.
Yeah, we got all that. Like all the excuses are gone. We got bad bitch surgery. You know, and everybody knows what that is. You go to California or Florida, you all that facial recognition technology that we created over the last 50 years has been reduced to cosmetic surgery, and they've gotten to the point where it's been mastered now. All of the test subjects are over with. Lil Kim, she was a test subject. Good for her. The cat lady, she was a test subject. Good for her. But now it's perfected. They put your face on a computer and ask you what you want, and then they give it to you. Now, granted, you're all going to come out looking like the same chick because, you know, otherwise you can't go too far. You fuck your face up. That's why when you see these chicks, they all look standardized. That's why I call it bad bitch surgery, because They all look standard. They look standard Kim K. All the chicks look like Kim K. They go get the surgery. It's the same surgery, you know. So there are no more excuses. You can't say big bone did no more. You can't use thyroid anymore. You can't do that, because we all know, like, once you get educated on something, you can't take it back. You know, hyperthyroid is when you have too quick of a metabolism. Hypothyroid is when it's too low. Either way, if your metabolism is slow, you eat less. If it's too fast, you eat more. Whatever. Excuses are done. All that big bone to this shit, debunked, because we have skeletons of fat people with normal sized bones, and all the bones are the same. Now, height makes a difference in bone size, but other than that, bones are the same. So big bone did is over with. All of the excuses are over with. So if black women can't compete at this point, it is literally their fault.
And those women of those types of looks, that is to say, average at best looks, in a previous era, I'm using 1961 as a point that we all can visualize, and the fact that they went to college much less, they worked, no matter what work job they were doing, they worked a lot less, which meant that they made a whole lot less money. Yeah, than the average at best guy. Yeah, he was offering stuff that made sense. But in today's world, many of these sisters price themselves out of the market for that brother, and they're basically all but invisible to the brothers that they really want higher up the fuel chain. So, yeah, that's the real challenge for the modern average at best sister. Are they willing to do what's required? And make no mistake about it, it is work, man. I mean, these women are hitting the gym every day. They're eating clean, and all the other, various, medical procedures, big and small, from teeth whitening on up to, butt lift, whatever. I mean, it's work and money. And, a real question for the ladies becomes, are they willing to do that to compete on a global scale for the type of men that they want? And for brothers that are average at best, the real question for them is, are they willing to do what's required to get their money up? That takes real work, and often, some type of investment, either going in the hock for, getting your skills in school, or, putting a business together, using a whole lot of, working many hours, I mean, it's no longer a period where you could be an average at best black man or black woman and do well. You have to have a completely different skill set, a completely different mindset. You was an average at best brother back then. You had institutions and cultures, cultural norms and institutions in society that stepped in and solved a lot of, the problems of life for you. For example, like I was talking about your retirement. You had to worry about 401ks and how to manage it and all that stuff. That was already figured out for you. It was called your pension. Both military and civilian, a lot of those questions were already figured out. In today's world, you got to be able to, hash all that stuff out for yourself. How many average at best brothers have the wherewithal to do that? I mean, really?
Oh, shit. Yeah. I mean, if you do want, like, traditional families and stuff like that, and you want, like, and it's too hard to do the work, and you want, like, the government to take care of that for you, all you have to do is hustle up enough money to get a plane ticket to any country that ends in Stan. You just pick one. Any country that ends in Stan, you go over there, the government will issue you a wife and a job. Problem solved.
And for the many brothers that still cling to this argument about, women of other races, Lourdes, Marisol, May, hey, knock yourself out, brother. I don't see the needle moving that much on that point, for whatever reason. Whatever the reason, I'm not hanging a reasoning on it. I'm just looking at outcomes. For whatever reason, that needle ain't moving much. So,
yeah, definitely in this modern world, if we're gonna, bring it to the micro, yeah, definitely individual brother in this world, no matter how bumpy the terrain is, yeah, you got to roll up your sleeves and figure out what you got to do to be more productive, make more money, get your money right. Shout out to Nagone 11. Get your mind right, your money right, your body right, your business right. Keep your overhead low and your savings high. You got to figure that out in this modern world. So I'm definitely down with that. I do analyze things on the macro scale, and I like to point out, on zooming out, I don't see it as men didn't do anything to flip the tables upside down, and I don't have any sympathy for a woman who's based off the things that men select women for. She's average, but she make a lot of money, so she priced herself out of the market. I mean, it just is what it is. I think shout out to Kevin Samuels, has done a good job of explaining. That's a big part of what his show is about, explaining sexual market value to women. That's a big part of what his show is about. Like, no, you just based off how you look, how you act, how you carry yourself, your level of femininity, and all of that. This is where you're at on the market. And if they don't see that, they don't understand that, they don't want to know that, and then they just out just in la la land with it, then hey, it is what it is right there. It's like, what do you say to that? If it's been explained, they understand, and hey, it is what it is.
So, serious question before I go: how many? Because I saw it in the chat as well, and I was thinking about it. How many Will Smith type of relationships do you think? I'm just asking your thoughts. Do you think there are like women who basically they'll be with you and quote unquote suffer through the marriage, all the while pining for somebody else the entire time? This won't fuck up.
I don't think that there are very many of those in Black American life at this point.
Okay.
We could debate, in the past, though. Okay, fair enough. I'm just looking at the overall number of marriages in Black America from, again, 1961 to 2021. I just don't think that there are that many marriages left overall, number one. And number two, of the ones that you're talking about, no. I think that's very few.
Well, they don't have to have like the money of the Swift. So I'm just saying, like, the wife.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Okay, I got you.
And I'll tell you the reason why. Because if you take the money component out of it, it's pretty clear to me why the Smiths stay together. It's pretty clear to me why. Money.
Yeah, you don't think she I can't just explain it as simple as that, because she'll be just fine if she just divorced him.
They do a lot better together than not. Couples and there've been all kinds of research done on this. Wealthier couples divorce a lot less. That's a fact. Business Insider, Forbes.
I get that. Yeah, I get that. But I'm just, if we just look at the raw numbers of the situation. I believe Will Smith is worth $300 million. I think he was so in love. I don't think a prenup or anything was anywhere in his mind at the time that he married her. So we're just going to operate forward. There's no prenup. They just got regular state sanctioned married. If he's worth $300 million in cash, assets, stock, investment, blah, 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 whatever, she would walk away with half of that and then not have to be concerned about being married with him and get her a 21-year-old plaything and just be happy and live her life. I mean, she technically got that now, but she could have it and not be, beholden to him. So why would she
go through a very public, potentially ugly, and it is a gamble because we don't know for certain what Will Smith has up his sleeve in terms of prenup or not.
I'll tell you why she won't do that. I'll tell you why she won't do. Hold on. I'll tell you why she won't do that, because Will Smith just lets her have sex with her 21-year-old plaything. Now, Will Smith had the
best of both worlds right now. Why break that up?
I know. So, but if Will Smith had a problem with her having a 22-year-old plaything, and I'm probably being generous with the 22. If Will Smith had a problem with her having a 22-year-old plaything, then she would go through that process and then just take the $150 million and go have her, 22-year-old playthings over there. That's how that would work. That's why their marriage work, because they don't care if the other person has sex with other people. That's why they're not getting a divorce.
Because it's more the holdings that they have together is more important than that.
You mean the holdings?
When we look at couples much further down, or black folks much further down.
That holdings that they have together. She wasn't in Bad Boys 3.
You have no idea. You have no idea what kind of holdings they have together.
All right.
So as I'm saying, so it's for one reason why there are fewer marriages happening in lower middle class and below in Black America is because there's less incentive to. There's really no reason to do so. In that sense, there's no holdings, no assets, liquid assets, certainly not. So no.
Well, there's reasons to do it, but you see, you would have to convince Black people of long-term delayed gratification for the next generation.
And you're asking people that are at best. Remember, average at best. You're asking Black people who are at best in the fat end of the Black bell curve distribution of IQ to do that.
Get out of there. I know where you're going, but yeah, get out of there. Yeah, but that's going back to what I said. Yeah, you would have to sell them on two people working together, family outcomes for children is your children going to have significantly better outcomes by y'all staying together, working together, getting along and figuring it out. And so even if y'all are, average or whatever we call it, it would be a better thing for the next generation in your lineage, the whole works. But that's a tough one to sell on. So if we take that off the table, then of course there's no reason. Of course there's no reason to just commit to one person. If long term, yeah. I mean, so I get that. But then in doing so, then we've just conceded that when they try to blame men, they talk about the out of wedlock birth rate, like men, they just abandoned their family. I think when we frame it like that, it's showing that women weren't real big on some families either. So
who was abandoning? Wait a minute, hold on. Who was abandoning a family when?
That's how people frame it when they look at the out of wedlock birth rate. They talk about it as if men just abandoned kids and families.
There was no. Well, it depends on how you.
It was never a family. Statistically, it was never a family. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
It was what was happening is that Black women were making the decision to have children on their own, without benefit of a husband, which is their right to do. I'm not saying they should or shouldn't do it. I'm just saying that's what it is.
No, they literally shouldn't do it. I can say they shouldn't do it.
Silent Lamont is very upset with you, Bernard, because he says he's hit the link 4 damn times and y'all leave me sitting in the back.
No, I wasn't bringing them up with the pastors. My bad, Silent. I should have explained to you. I wouldn't bring any. No. This wasn't the Silent Lamont show today.
Yeah, he was boiling over. I think he's boiling over with points he wants to make there.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm about to actually shut it down. So just sit this one out, Silent. We got it, man. We got it.
Yeah. So all I'm saying is that all of these discussions occurring across Black social media, Black male, Black female alike, are, in my opinion, just various permutations and manifestations of a much larger problem, and that much larger problem is modernity. A 21st century world where racism isn't the number one concern for Black people anymore. That's really what it is. So, and we really don't have any real answers for that. I mean, for Black women, like I said, for Black women for whom this applies, you have to be really competitive because the mating market for desirable males is highly competitive. So if you're not competitive in that market, and we all know what it is Instagram. You see it all the time. They're Black women from Africa, not from Africa. Scratch that. There are Black women in Africa as we speak on Instagram with millions of men followers that display what men in general want. And we can reasonably assume that the more guys that are higher up on the food chain in terms of success, resources, and stuff like that, yeah, they generally, gravitate to and prefer. So you know, the idea of, and Zero's right about this, the idea of, you know, kind of trying to hang it on, you know, Becky and all that sort of thing. No. So for a lot of black women, that's the real, you know, problem for them. Can they compete on a global scale for the to have a shot at the more desirable men? And for average at best brothers, they get to see on the jumbotron in various ways, big and small, what the guys that are better off can do and get and enjoy. And how are they going to feel about that? Are they just going to accept that?
All right, that's the show. That's the show. I got to wrap this. I meant to wrap it up promptly at 3:00, but we always end up going over. But I would like to thank everybody that came through today. Whether you like, shared, subscribe, hit the super chat, cash app, whatever you did. Oh, Mr. C sent to like a $40 cash app earlier. Shout out to you. And D-Rock Den sent his customary $5 cash app. Definitely appreciate y'all. Yeah. What? Anything else? Shout out to, I think Ice became a member today. So shout out to you. And I think Oblique, that's all, folks. We are out of here. Peace.